Hello YouTube, Captain Mac here, and welcome to the full flight tutorial for your PMDG 747-8. Now, as you can see, we are going to be flying the freighter model of this aircraft today, not the passenger model. There are some minor differences, but as far as procedures are concerned, these differences aren't going to be an effect for this tutorial. There are a couple of switches that do not exist in this aircraft because there are no passengers, and we will cover those briefly when we get to them, but just know that this tutorial is just as effective for flying the passenger version of this aircraft as it is for flying the freighter version of this aircraft. I just prefer to fly the freighter version because I just do. I can't really give any specific reason, but we don't need a separate tutorial for the passenger version of this aircraft. With all of that being said, we're going to dive in here pretty quickly because we got a lot to cover, so grab yourself a cup of coffee, sit back, and buckle up because we're going to be at this for a little while. Don't forget there are chapters listed in the description down below, so if there's a specific section of this tutorial that you are looking for, please jump down there, click on the link, and it's going to take you right to that part of the video. Without further ado, let's get started. Alright folks, welcome to the flight deck. If you have ever seen any of my videos on a 747-400 or any of my 747-8 videos, you will be familiar with the layout of this flight deck. The reason is really quite simple. The flight deck is nearly identical to the 747-400, and we've flown lots of those and even did a full flight tutorial on the 747-400, so it's going to be pretty easy to find our way around in here. However, there are enough differences with this aircraft in its operation that it warrants a full flight tutorial, and I asked you guys if you wanted one, and the response was pretty overwhelmingly yes. And because of that, we are going to dive into this. Now, there are definitely some differences, putting aside the fact that it's got a higher max zero fuel weight, a higher max takeoff weight, a higher max landing weight, different engines, it's bigger. All of that stuff is certainly different about the 747-8 compared to the 400. But the operation of the aircraft is a little different as well. There are some more goodies in here, including a built-in EFB, which we're going to dive into today, and some other stuff. So with all of that being said, the first thing we want to do is we want to talk about how we set up this aircraft to where we're at right now. When you load the aircraft in, it's going to be ready, essentially ready for taxi. Well, we don't want that. We want it cold and dark. Or maybe you do want it that way, and that's fine. And that means that most of this tutorial is going to be useless to you, and you can skip on ahead to the portion on pre-taxi or before taxi. But for those of us who want to know how to operate this aircraft from cold and dark, this is where we're going to start. Now, if you're in cold and dark and you just hold down the menu key, you see you get two options on your FMC here. All right. To go to cold and dark, and I just want to make sure you know how to do this really quick. If the aircraft's running, you'll have FMC and a bunch of other options on here, but you'll still have PMDG setup and FS actions. So select your PMDG setup, go to panel state load, and then select cold and dark, and then select execute. Now I'm not going to execute it because we already did that. You can also change it for a short turn, a long turn, default, and then it'll save some of your flight information as well, like previous flight and so on and so forth. I don't use those. I just stick with the default cold and dark, and that's what I go to, and then that's that. The other thing, sorry, I had to scratch my ear, so I pulled the microphone away. The other thing that I do want to show you in here has to do with setting up your configuration for the aircraft. So it's the same menu. You're going to go to PMDG setup, and then you're going to go to aircraft. Now, you've got all these different options. Here's the thing. My options are pretty much always the same. I pretty much always want the same stuff. The beauty of this is I can just load from another. So the one that I fly most often is going to be November 854 GT. So I know that the setup for November 854 GT, I know that that is the way I like it. So I can load that in without going through all these options. And we're not going to go through all of these. All right, you got 19 pages of equipment options, you've got 6 pages of display options, you've got all of your failures, all of that stuff. We're not going into all that. So instead of going through and choosing everything the way that I want it, I've already done that, and I'll just load from this one. I'll execute that. It's going to load the file, only takes a second. It's loaded in, and now all of my equipment, displays, failures, and all of my options are set up the way that I want them to be, hopefully. I have done that once before, and I don't seem to be running into any issues. All right, so that's how we get the aircraft to cold and dark, and it's pretty straight and simple. And then again, if you've used another 747 and you want to just load in all those options, that's how you take care of that. All right, so now that we've got the aircraft in a cold and dark state, what we want to do is, before we start anything up, before we even bring power on the aircraft, let's take care of our load. Now, we don't have to load fuel and stuff right now. We can use GSX to load fuel. You know, we can do the fuel once the aircraft's up and running. I like to do it before I get started. That way it's done, and I know that it's set the way I want it. So the first thing you need is you need a flight plan. All right. Now, for those of you who've been watching my videos lately, you know that I absolutely love this Sim Toolkit Pro program. It's free. Just look right here, search that on Google, download, install. It's freaking awesome, okay? This is my flight plan from SimBrief. If you haven't used SimBrief before, or if you're interested in a tutorial on how to use SimBrief, PFPX, any of that stuff, let me know in the comments. And if we got enough people interested, I'll put together some tutorials on that stuff as well. But this program integrates directly with your SimBrief. You just load the plan right in here. You don't have to download any files or anything like that. It integrates with Navigraph, ActiveSky, and so on. But this is not about Sim Toolkit Pro. This is about our 747. So we've got our flight plan here. You got all your basic flight plan information up here, the type of aircraft it is, where you're going. We're flying from Phoenix to San Francisco today. I probably forgot to mention that in the intro. All of that good stuff is in here. You've got your air distance, on we go. What we're worried about right now is our fuel and our payload. So here's our fuel. Our trip fuel is 39,587 pounds. We got contingency fuel, alternate fuel, final reserves, so on and so forth. Down here's our block fuel. This is what we want for our aircraft. It's 71,438 pounds. Then we want to scroll down here, and this will be on my second screen so that I can just look at it when we put in these numbers. Here's our weights, or our payload, right? And we're interested in our cargo right here. It's 246,100 pounds, which is a lot of cargo, and this aircraft will carry it. Okay, you can see our zero fuel weight here, our fuel is listed, our takeoff weight is listed, and our landing weight is listed, and the max weights are listed right next to it. So for example, our max takeoff weight is 802,600 pounds. All right, we're taking off at 751,700 pounds. We're going to be quite heavy on this one. But if you were to compare these numbers here in the max column to those numbers for the passenger model, you would find that some of these are a little bit lower. Not a whole lot, but they are a little bit lower. The freighter version will carry a heavier load. But there's our weights and there's our fuel, and we need those to get this set up. Now the way we do that is we go to FS Actions and we go to Fuel, and we're going to start here. So you can select set or preset fuel. You could say short range, and it'll load at 132,258 pounds. That's more fuel than we need, right? We need 71,438 pounds. So we can just go 71,438. Now it's going to automatically balance this out, and so you can see it went to 71,433. Basically 5 pounds of that didn't balance out properly, right? Now you got two options. First of all, we're supposed to have a final reserve fuel of 11,940 pounds. So really those 5 pounds aren't going to make a difference. All right, but if I want to err on the side of safety, I would want that to be a little higher, right? So if 71,438 doesn't work, maybe I go to 71,442, right? So that's me adding 4 pounds to it, and it puts it at 71,440. Again, it's balancing out the fuel automatically, but that's 2 pounds more than what I need. So now my fuel, I'm comfortable with my fuel there, right? It gives you a takeoff center of gravity and a zero fuel weight. That's based on the current payload. But we need to change our payload as well. Now this one's a little more difficult. Remember, our payload was listed, and I'm pulling it up over here. Our payload is our total payload is 247,700 pounds. Our cargo, which is what we're changing here, because we're not adjusting the passengers or anything like that, or the pilot weights or anything like that. So we want 246,100 pounds of cargo. Okay, you can start punching in numbers and trying to figure this out, and that's all kinds of fun, and you can spend a little bit of time doing that. But I think there's an easier way to do this, especially when we're running cargo loads that are heavier. And what I do is I just grab my phone or a piece of paper if you want, and pull up a calculator. I hit set max, all right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to adjust this cargo here. And the easiest way to do that is to take your max or your planned cargo, which is 246,100 pounds. Okay, and I'm just typing this in on my phone, and then I'm going to subtract these three numbers. So 39,563, so minus 39,563, and then minus 36,052. And you can check my math if you want. I'm certainly not going to do it in my head. And then minus 5688. And that equals 164,797. So if I go 164,797 and I put that right in here, it doesn't mess. In fact, it helps my center of gravity a little bit. Okay. And now I know that all of those combined is 246,100 pounds. Makes it nice and easy, right? So that's how I deal with my with loading my cargo. All right, so once you've taken care of your fuel and payload, you're ready to go at this point. Now that's all well and good, and we could just jump right in from here and carry on, but I think it's important that we cover a couple more things that you can do from this portion of your FMC, and we're not going to go really in depth here. I just want to briefly touch on them because there's a couple things here you're going to use. First of all, you're going to use your ground connections. All right, setting and removing wheel chocks. Okay, ground power, air start unit, release unit. These are all ground connections, right? And so these are, especially like right now, we're going to start the aircraft. We're going to power on the aircraft with ground power. We're not going to use the APU yet. All right, so we need to know where to set those. So that's in ground connections. You've also got service vehicles. If you want, like I use GSX. You saw the GSX stuff out there, but I want to open the nose cargo door as well. Well, GSX doesn't provide a loader, a cargo loader for the nose door, but PMDG does. So I can request nose cargo. I can request any of these: fuel trucks, portable water, maintenance van, lavatories. I can put the tail stand in, and there's even another page of these. I can request all that stuff. So if you don't use GSX, even though you won't see it loading cargo, you can put these around the entire aircraft as if it were loading cargo, and then it just just to add to your realism a little bit. All right, so we've gone ahead and requested the nose cargo. It's arriving. It probably doesn't even do anything until we open the nose door, which we'll go over that in a little bit. Okay, and then you've got ground operations, right? So there's all kinds of different stuff in here. Pushback information, turn type, voice comms, all that. We're not messing with any of this. I'm just telling you all this stuff is here. Okay, and then you've got ground maintenance. If you are like me and you turn on service-based failures, you're going to want to come in here once in a while and you're going to want to refill these things. Now, this particular aircraft I have not flown before. This will be our first flight, so there's no point in me refilling or refueling, filling, whatever, replacing brakes, tires, any of that stuff. Okay, but if you want to add to your immersion, you want to go in here and make sure that maintenance is being done on the aircraft. Otherwise, you're going to have a failure. Now, if you want it to go until it does get a failure, then just ignore these for a while, and sooner or later, you're going to get a failure. And then auto cruise, I don't use it. I don't mess with it. Okay. We also have our doors page in here. Here's entry 1. Here's your close all function. And then you've got your nose cargo, side cargo, forward overhead, upper deck, forward cargo, aft cargo, bulk cargo, and then you've got your maintenance panels. All right. Now, this is going to look different for the passenger version, right? Because there's different doors on there. It's not just a bunch of cargo doors like it is on this one. Okay. We're going to open up the nose cargo and stuff here in a little while. We're going to open up these other cargo doors as well. The ones that it says closed, that means it's already opened. All right, so like right now it's saying nose cargo closed, but if we jump up here, oh, the nose cargo door is open. I guess it opened when I put the ground service vehicle in there. All right, so when I chose that service vehicle, I guess it just automatically opened the nose cargo door, and that's fine. I do want to make a note about that, and I'll just touch on it right now, and I'll try to remember to say it again when we come to close the cargo door. With that nose cargo door, it will not move if you have both of these on. Or with the APU, if you have both of these on, that cargo door doesn't move. You have to use only one. So either external power 1 or 2 or APU Gen 1 or 2 in order to operate that nose cargo door. And I'll try to remember that when we get to it. All right. So that's your doors there. You've also got the pushback option. Again, if you're not using GSX, you can set up your pushback in here. We're not going to do that, but I just want you to know that it's something you can do. You can deal with cabin lights. You can they're on auto right now. You can put them on manual. You can change how bright they are. All of that stuff can be done right here through the FMC in your PMDG setup or FS Actions menu. Alright, so now that we've covered some of the things that you can do with the aircraft, and again, this is a full flight tutorial. It's not about going into everything that's available for this aircraft. If you ever want a tutorial that goes through all the different options on the FMC and so on, let me know, and if there's enough folks that are interested in it, then I'll absolutely put one together. But what we want to do now is we want to jump into the power-up procedure for this aircraft. And this procedure is all about it's all about what it sounds like. It's getting the power onto the aircraft so that we can start putting our flight plan in and getting ready to get out of here. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to check your circuit breakers. Well, I've got good news for you. None of the circuit breakers actually move, and that's really good because otherwise you'd be over here for a little while checking all of those. You'd be up here for a little while checking all of these, and that's just going to take you for, and I think there's another set back over there somewhere. So checking circuit breakers is going to take a minute, right? But you don't have to do that in this aircraft, so that's a good thing. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to hop up here and we're going to turn on the battery. External power is available, but we haven't used it yet. All right. Now in the real world, that nose cargo door would not have opened just because that cargo loader showed up, because there's no power on the aircraft. It's available, but we haven't put any power on it. We need to turn on the battery switch. You can see that the cover's up a little bit, but click it anyway and it opens up all the way. And then click on this and there's your battery. All right. Standby power selector right here. This guy goes to auto. There we go. And then your fire detection panel is supposed to be normal. That's this guy up here, and normal is what? There's nothing on, right? So we're good on that. Fuel control switches should be in the cutoff. That's actually back down here, and it's these guys behind the throttles, okay? So these all need to be down. That's the cutoff position. Start knobs are closed. Now I'll hop back and forth quite a bit to make these as easy to see as you can. These are your start knobs, all 4 of them, but it's hard to see what position they're in from there. If I go from here and look, you can see that if I click on them, they come down. That's open, that's closed. So they need to be in the closed position. All right. Alternate flaps need to be off and disarmed. And I believe I remember correctly, alternate flaps are in here somewhere. There they are, right here. Off and disarmed. All right. And there's a couple things where I have to remember where it's at sometimes. So just bear with me on that. But there's our alternate flap switch. So off and disarm, the light is off. That's disarmed. Okay. Landing gear lever is down. And the flap position indicator and the lever agree. So our flaps are in the up position right now. Okay, and the indicator or the flap handle is in the up position as well. All right, easy enough. What's next? Weather radar is off. Well, it's definitely off because we didn't turn it on, I can promise you. Electrical power, external or APU established. So after all of that, now we're going to turn on the external power, and I'm just going to click this one. All right, and again, the reason I'm only using one is if I have both on, I cannot operate that nose cargo door, and I believe the one of the side cargo doors doesn't operate either. And it does mention it in the manual, and it explains why. I don't remember exactly what it said. It has something to do with this power being available strictly for that door. This is for everything else in the aircraft, If I turn this one on, then this power is being directed to everything else in the aircraft, and it's needed for the door. Now, if I'm wrong about that explanation and you're aware of it, please don't hesitate to point it out down below and explain my mistake. Okay, moving on. Main and APU battery voltage needs to be checked. We're going to hop down to this view here, and I'm going to pop these up for you most of the time because it's just easier to see them. All right, and what I'm going to do is from this panel right here, I'm going to select my, it's actually not electrical. I'm clicking that one on, but it's not. It's the status page. All right, and you can see the main battery volts DC and APU volts DC are right here. So we're checking those now. I don't know what they're supposed to be. I'm sure it is in that manual because those manuals are pretty in depth about the systems, but I just didn't find it. And when you got thousands of pages to go through, it's easy to overlook something like that. Unless you're flying this thing in the real world, then you better know what it is, right? But that's where we're going to check it at. Exterior lights as required. Now we've got power on the aircraft, so we at a bare minimum we need to put our beacon on the lower. So right click and that puts it to the lower position, and that lets everybody know we got power on the aircraft. And I take a little bit of issue with this because it seems to me, excuse me, I'm going to cough. Here we go. Coughing in your face, otherwise it's not a Captain Mag video. It seems to me that it's a little different for every aircraft. Somebody put in one of the comments, I forget which lights it was, but you know, you automatically turn on these lights and that's how everybody knows that power's on the aircraft. Well, when I fly Cessna 172 in the real world, it's the beacon light. So I don't know if it's, I know it's not strobe and it's not nav. It could be wing lights, it could be beacon. I'm going with the beacon lights. Make sense to everybody? And then the next thing is ground interphone set, but you're not going to do anything with your ground interphone anyway. So what I want to do instead, because it's not on this checklist, is I actually want to check and make sure that all of our lights are working. And the way we do that is we're going to right click on the test switch right here, and if you move your mouse, usually if you move your mouse off of it, you can let go of the button, but in this case I couldn't. But I'm just holding down the right button. I can see all of my lights coming on here, and then I've got chase plane, so I can hit the middle scroll wheel as a button, and I can see all of the lights are on down here, all of the lights are on up here, all of my lights are working. Now when I scroll down here and let go, then all of a sudden it stays on. So all the lights are working, so we're good. Then I'll just left click it, and that takes it back off, and that actually completes our power up procedure. Alright, so now we are going to dive in what is surely going to be the longest section of this entire tutorial, and is probably the longest section of just about any tutorial, and that is the pre-flight procedure. Alright, and there's a lot of things that need to happen, so we're going to just dive right in and get her all done. So first things first, you do an exterior safety inspection. It's a flight simulator, we don't really need to do that, but in the real world you would do a walk around on the aircraft and there's lots of stuff you're looking for. We're not going to go into that. We do want to check our oxygen. It says crew oxygen masks. Come down here and you just give her a click and let go, and that little buzz and that little cross means you're good. You could check the oxygen on the first officer's side as well, but I don't think you really need to worry about that. If he doesn't check it, then that's on him. Emergency equipment is checked, maintenance status is checked. We showed you where you can check on maintenance in the FMC, and you can do maintenance through the FMC. Primary ICAS checked, then cancel. This is your ICAS. It's engine, instruments, something, and systems. I can't remember exactly what the acronym stands for, but we're going to check it and then we're going to cancel them out. So there's not anything on here that we're not aware of at the moment, but that's what you're checking for. You're looking to see if it's telling you that there's a problem with something. All right? But all our fuel pumps are off and stuff like that, so all of those warnings make sense to us. Okay, no smoking signs need to go on, and seatbelt signs need to go on or auto. Okay, and if memory serves, is it back here on this one? Yes, it is. So it's on the center console here, just right click to auto. Now I haven't even jumped in a passenger version of this, of the 8F. It may be there, or you may find it up here somewhere in this area here. So just keep that in mind. If you can't find the passenger signs back here on the center console, then they're going to be on the overhead. Alright, moving on. Ground test switch normal. Now this one actually took me a little while to find because I had forgotten about something. You have your overhead panel here, right? And I was looking, I couldn't find these. That's because you got another one way up here. Alright, and this is the one they're going to be doing while they're standing up in the aircraft. I don't think you can reach these from a seat. So our ground test switch needs to be normal. That's this guy here. Now, to simplify this, I'm going to show you here. If I left click, it's up in the normal position. If I were to click this, it would move it to, I'm not going to click it. It would move it to the enable position, or I can left click this to close it again. It's the same for all of these. I'm not messing with any of these switches. We're checking to make sure they're normal, and if the cover is on it, then it's in the normal position. Alright, so ground test switch is normal. Flight control shutoff valves are normal. That's these guys right here. I'm trying to say general for some reason. Generator field manual reset switches are normal, and that is these guys right here. Okay. Oh, just so you know, the flight control shutoff valves is all of these. Okay. Gen field man reset switches, generator field manual reset, that's these four, those are normal. APU field manual reset switches, these two here are normal. Split system breaker switch is normal, that's this one here. Cockpit voice recorder test. Now that's up over here. It tells you right here, hold it for 5 seconds. So we're going to hold it, we're waiting for the little green light on the right to come on. Just waiting. There it is, and then you can just let go of the switch and your test is complete. Now we need to do the squib test. There's two test switches, 1 and 2. Test 1 lights them all up. Alright, and it says here test 1 for this one, and the reason it says that is because it doesn't light up on test 2. See? Makes sense, right? So test 1, test 2, all of these. Alright, and then this one's test 1 only. So test 1 is all the lights and test 2 is all but that light. Make sense? Good. EEC maintenance switches, all of these here are in the normal position. And then we go to the IRS mode selectors, which are down here in the off position. 1, 2, 3, they're all off. Now the way this flow works for the IRS and the FMC setup is a little different than what I'm used to, but I'm trying to stick with this because this is the checklist and procedures that I've been using, so I'm going to stick with this format as much as makes sense. Alright, so that takes care of everything up to FMC initialization. Now, like I was saying, the flow is a little bit different than what I'm used to. So for FMC initialization, we're going to jump down here, and I'm making this its own little section, kind of separate. I don't know, maybe in the editing I'll just roll them all together, we'll see. Alright, but we're going to go to the ident page. So click on FMC. This is the ident page. We want to make sure our model's correct, our engines are correct, and that our nav data is up to date. Now, if you don't have Navigraph data, I think there's another one out there, but I think Navigraph's the only one I know of for certain. If you don't have a Navigraph data subscription, this is probably going to be out of date, and you're going to get a notice that it's out of date. It's not the end of the world, it just means that your flight plans might struggle a little bit. That being said, if you're flying one of these aircraft, you probably have that subscription anyway. Then we're going to go to present position. I hit the thing twice. No, where are you going? Go back to index, ident page, then go position initialization is what I meant to say. And we're going to put in our reference airport. So we're at Phoenix. We're going to put that in there. And then that's it for now. We're not setting the IRS position because we haven't even moved those in the IRS selectors into the right position to do that. It says to check the time and to enter the flight number. That's a waste of time to enter the flight number because it's just going to go away when you go to put in a flight plan. Trust me on this. So then it says IRS mode selector off, then nav. That doesn't make sense to me because we never moved them to align. So we're going to right click twice. Alright. And then we're going to go back and left click once, each one to align. This is how you align them. Alright. Come back down here. Now go to the next page. Look at these values. I made this mistake, and so I clarify this just about every time now. Alright. These are the GPS position is what we're really concerned with. It's 3226 11201. Make sure that's pretty close to what you're looking at here. Okay, 3226 112.0. All right, because if it's not, you're going to have a problem when you set it in here. All right, and that's a problem I ran into with the King Air because I didn't pay attention. So look at them real quick and then grab the one that's close go back here, and then put it in there, and you're good to go. It's as easy as that. All right, and then that's it for the FMS or the FMC for right now. We're not going to touch it again for probably, as far as the tutorial goes, the next 10 minutes. Right? That's how it's normally done. I'm going to break away from that just for this tutorial. I mean, it doesn't really matter. You can do this the way I'm doing it right now, or you can do it the way it's laid out on here, but it doesn't make sense to me to just stop here when we can go through and get this set up so that you guys see what's going on, right? So let's press on. We're going to click on the route page. We're going to put in our origin, and we're going to put in our destination, which is going to be KSFO. I don't know why it kept Phoenix in there. Clear that off. Usually that just goes away when you put it in. So we're going over to San Francisco. There we go. All right. Our flight number is 748. You like that? Now you could select a company route. Here's the kicker. All right. I've had problems with company routes loading in here. The route will load, but then there's nothing on the route. And I tried doing it from a SimBrief created route, and I tried doing it from a PFPX created route, and I had the same problem. So we're not even going to bother with it. Don't worry about it. What we're going to do now is we're going to activate that. I found this works best this way. Activate and execute, and then go to departure arrival. Let me pull that up over here. Hold on, I'm going to cough in your face. There we go. That wasn't too loud, I hope. And we're going to be taking the Keens to departure. So select Phoenix departure, and then we're going to be going off runway 8, and we'll go to next page. There it is, Keens 2. All right. Now, as far as transitions go, we're going to Herber, which is this one right here. So we can put that as our transition. That's going to transition us off of the departure onto the route. Now, we don't need to execute this right now. Just click route, all right, and then go to next page. You can see it's already put it in there. So Harbor, Keens 2 to Harbor is in there. I guess that's Harbor. Probably for Sky Harbor, that would make sense. But anyway, it's in there, and now we can press on with putting together our route. So first things first, we're going to go from Harbor direct to Curiv, C-U-R-I-V. So we'll type that in here, C-U-R-I-V. There it is. And thankfully, I'm glad the way this flight plan worked out. The next one's going to be on a jetway. So if your flight plan says something like J212, which is what we have next, if I put that in here, it's not going to work. Invalid entry. Why? Because that's an airway. All right. So I want to put that over here, J212, and then it puts these boxes. Anytime you have boxes, you must put something in there. We're taking J212 all the way to DECAS, D-E-C-A-S. So D-E-C-A-S, you're going to put that in these boxes. All right. And what that's going to do is between Curiv and DECAS, that's going to fill in all the waypoints on our legs page, and I'll show you what I mean when we finish up here. From there, it's direct to Boyle, B-O-I-L-E. Here we go. And then it's direct to the AVE VOR. Okay, once our page is full, we just hit next page. And then from there, it's direct to Makers, M-A-K-R-S. And I don't always show putting in all the waypoints anymore because sometimes it takes a while. From there, it's direct to Surfer, S-E-R-F-R. That figures, California. Now, one of you is on here from California being like, really? What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. I'm just giving you crap. Surfer, put that in there. And then from there, that'll put us on our arrival. Now, I'm not going to put the arrival in yet because if I put the arrival in right now and then most arrivals are specific for certain runways. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Alright, so if I put in the arrival now and then our runway changes, then we got to change our arrival as well, and that's just a pain in the butt. So I'm going to activate, execute. Now, if we look at our route here, we've got 3 pages, right? 2 and then 3, and the first page is just all of our basic information. On our actual route, we got 1, 2 pages, but if we go to legs, we've got 4 pages of legs, right? And that's what those airways do for you. So if you have a flight plan with airways in it, then you're helping yourself out. Trust me on that. Okay? So once we're done with that, we're going to go to our performance initialization. Now, this is an option in the FMC. I have it set up to automatically calculate 0 fuel weight, so I can just confirm it by clicking on this. If you have boxes here, like you do down below, just click on this line select key next to the boxes. It'll put the 0 fuel weight down here, and then you click on this line select key again and it'll fill it in. It's the same thing, it's just one less click for me. Alright, our final reserves was what? It was like 11,000 something. Final reserve 11,940. I'm just going to put it at 11.5, so that's 11,500 pounds. Okay, our cruise altitude, that's one thing I don't like about the flight plan layout, is it doesn't have the initial cruise altitude readily shown. You have to actually scroll all the way down to all your waypoints and find where it shows your flight level, and then see what your first highest flight level is, which is 340 for us, flight level 340. I wish that it would put that somewhere else on the flight plan so it's easier to find. But anyway, flight level 340 is where we're going, and our cost index is going to be 85. Moving on to thrust limit page, we're going to do a normal takeoff with a normal climb, which is 100.5% thrust. There's a couple reasons for that. One, we're extremely heavy, and two, our outside air temperature is 23 degrees Celsius, which is pretty warm. Alright, and then click on the takeoff page. We're going to do a flaps 20 takeoff. This is again because of how heavy we are. You can do a flaps 20 takeoff in this aircraft. Most of the time it's going to be a flaps 10 takeoff right here, but you can do flaps 20, and when you're heavy, inside the manual it says if you're heavy you should be using flaps 20. So we're going to put in 20 down here, we're going to click right here, and there it is. Same thing with center of gravity as it was for 0 fuel weight. If you have boxes here, just click once, click a second time, and it'll fill it in. I have the option to just select it, and so that puts it in. And then we're missing something here, right? Because it didn't put in our V speeds. Why didn't it put in our V speeds? That's interesting. So I missed something. What did I miss? I don't know what I missed. I've got everything in there, right? Select, arm, I don't know. Yeah, they look right. Trim 7.0, thrust is takeoff. That's the first time I've ever had that happen. The V speeds should automatically populate in there. But they didn't for some reason. I've got everything in there. Runway 8. Yeah, I am not sure on that. So I'm going to break away from it. But the way this typically works is once you put those numbers in, right, you're good. Your V speeds just pop up, but they didn't on this one. So I'm going to see if I can figure that out real quick. And then I'll come back on here. If I can't, there is another way to do it. Alright, so I did figure out what it was. You can see that the V speeds are available now. 141 is in there because I typed that in, and I did that because I wanted to make sure that I could. But the reason they hadn't shown up yet is because our IRS system was still in the alignment mode. So I moved these back over to nav, and now you can see that our V speeds are available to us. So if you just select them, now this one, because I already selected it, I got to type it in. So 135, and I can type it in there, and then just select them, and it puts them in there. Now, that takes care of our FMC setup, but I did tell you that there's another way to take care of these, and that's what we're going to dive into now. And this is going to take a little bit, so I hope that cup of coffee is fresh and hot, because this EFB has a lot going on. Alright, first things first. There are things on this EFB that have nothing to do with the aircraft per se. They are about the EFB and the simulator, right? So you've got an ident page. This is for your aircraft model. It's got a date in here, optional airports database, so on and so forth. Back button, if it doesn't work, hit menu button, it takes you to the main menu. Now we're not going to go into everything having to do with this, but I do want to show you a few things. Let's go to the systems page. Alright, you have EFB maintenance here. If I click on that, you can see that this will see these scan buttons. This is to scan my scenery configuration files. Alright, so if I've updated an airport recently or something like that, I can scan this. I can do this scan, right? Just click on it, ask you if you want to continue, click yes, Alright, and then it scans through them. That's what it just did there, scanned through them, and it updates. If you have any airport updates, like you just added a new one in, or you added in Orbix or something like that, it scans it so that the information shows up properly in here. So everything's good to go on that. Alright, moving up over, let's go back to systems page actually. So that's our EFB maintenance. You've got application preferences, so you can set precision approach, jet fuel, pounds or kilograms, Fahrenheit or Celsius, and so on. All that stuff is available to set in here. Minimum runway length, all of that can be set. Alright, you can click on line select keys like this. It doesn't even work for that one. Or you can click, it's a touchpad, right? So you can click right on it. When you're done, hit save. If you make some mistakes or you don't like it, just hit reset, or you can hit cancel. Alright, and then you've got restarting the EFB. And all that does is exactly what it sounds like. It restarts it. Alright, so there's our systems page. So what I want to do here, let's go to data load first. Okay. No information is available to load. So if it is, this will highlight and you can load data in there. I'm trying to remember because it hasn't asked me to redo it. But when you go to load charts, and I think it's under data, nope, there it is right there. It's going to make me log into it. I'm going to move that. Alright, so I moved it off just so you don't see my username and stuff. So it does this to me once in a while, but this, when you click on terminal charts, if you have a Navigraph subscription, okay, then you click on terminal charts and it's going to pop up that window you just saw pop up. It's going to ask you if it can have access to your user ID, basic user information, Navigraph charts, and to keep me logged in. And then it says on here, remember my decision, which is checked. I click yes, allow, and now I have access to my charts. It'll take you to this page here. Alright, now why it did that, again, I don't know, because I selected to remember my decision. But if you haven't logged into your charts through this yet, when you click on that and that window pops up, you will put in your Navigraph login information. Alright, select the options that it gives you to select, whatever you want to select on there, and then save it, and then you'll have access to your terminal charts. When you click on this, you can go in there. So I'm actually glad that window popped up, even though it can be a little obnoxious that it does it occasionally. I'm glad it popped up because that shows you how that works. So one more time, if you have Navigraph, when you click on terminal charts, you will need to log into your Navigraph. It'll pop up a window, you log in, and then you'll have access to those charts through here. Now, if you don't have Navigraph, don't worry. You can still use charts with this aircraft, believe it or not. You can use PDF charts. Go to Documents. If you click on Documents, you'll see there are already a few documents in here. Okay? This checklist is a checklist that I put in here. How did I figure out how to do that? By using the EFB manual, right? Click on this guy, and then where was it? Was it Overview? I don't remember where it was, but just read through this stuff. Alright, there it is, Document Browser, Overview, Launching the Document Browser, Application Menu, blah blah blah, right? So I click on that, okay, and then, so what do I have here? I've got, the manual is in here, okay, the manual is in here. We'll go into this menu here in a little bit. Now let me go back. I'm just trying to find it real quick. Application, nope, that's what we're looking at right here, and so on. Anyway, it's written in here, and I can tell you that it is, which folder is it? I'm trying to remember now. So it's in your flight sim folder. In fact, I'll just navigate on this other window over here. So it's in your main flight sim folder, PMDG, EFB, and then there's a Documents Library folder in there, okay? And then in there are two more folders, 747-8 and then Common. If you put it in the Common folder, any PMDG aircraft you have with an EFB, it'll show up in there. If you put it in the 747-8 folder, it only shows up in the 747-8. Is everybody tracking on that? That information, how to do that, is in here. I'm just navigating back to where I need to be. There we go. Okay, so that information is in this manual right here. It's not hard to do. It's really simple. And if you do that, let's think about this for a minute. I've got this checklist in here. Here's the checklist I'm using right now. This is a PDF file that I put in here. This did not come with the aircraft. Alright, so I downloaded this PDF file and then I put it in the appropriate folder. What does that mean? That means if you download PDF charts and you save them in that folder, guess what? They will be available to you in your EFB. So you don't have to have a Navigraph subscription to be able to use charts with this bad boy. So something to keep in mind. Alright, so that's what you're going to find in your documents section. You've also got other information. We did the data load. You've got performance and pilot utilities. Let's go over those real quick. Okay, pilot utilities, you got a calculator, you got a timer, you got a scratch pad, fuel to volume conversion, fuel volume to weight conversion, speed conversions, length conversions, and so on. You can see all these. And you just click on one and you can make use of it. For example, when I did my fuel calculations, I could go in here and I could put in those calculations right here if I didn't want to use my cell phone, right? So your pilot utilities can be very helpful for you. Or your performance, I mean. No, that was pilot utilities, right? Yeah, pilot utilities. Duh. Performance is actually where we want to go next, and then we'll take a look at setting up for our charts. The reason I want to go to performance is because I can calculate, this is basically TopCat. I can calculate my takeoff speeds and all of that through here. Now in order to do that, you got some work to do in here. Now, if you've already set up the FMC like I did, you can copy FMC data. Look at that. Takeoff weight is in there. Okay. It's got our departure airport. This is for takeoff. It's got our departure airport. It doesn't show a thrust rating. Well, we're going to be doing a takeoff thrust rating, right? Flap configuration is going to be flaps 20. AC configuration is going to be on. And the anti-ice configuration is going to be off. Alright, so we want to put all those in there. The runway condition is dry because it's Phoenix. It's always dry. And then I can look at my active sky. And what's my wind say here? The wind is 140 at 4 knots. So it's basically a crosswind, right? So if I just click on this, I can't do anything with it. But if I go show keyboard, all right, and then I don't remember the format, so we'll find out. But click on it again, and I can go 140, and I think it's /04. All right, and then hide the keyboard. So 140 at 4 knots. So I got a 3 knot headwind and a 3 knot crosswind. It tells me right there. Outside air temperature was already put in there. The QNH is 2994. So again, show keyboard. Now, I can also, where's it at on here? There's a way to use an external keyboard. But it's not showing up right now. So, oh yeah, right here. So if I click on this, all right, external keyboard. So it was 2994. So 2, I'm using my keyboard. I'm not, see my mouse is right here, right? I'm going to leave it up here. There's 2, 9. I have that key as one of my keys for a view. That's why it jumped out here. Alright, so that doesn't work well for me. So 9 and then 3 is this view here, obviously. You get where I'm coming from. But you can use an external keyboard if you don't want to click on this. That was the point of that. So we'll get rid of those 2994, right? Yeah, 2994. And then hide keyboard. Pressure's too high, please check. Oh, okay. It's showing QNH. What is the QNH? Ooh, I don't know. I have it in 2994. That's probably something I got to set up, right? Oh, my brain doesn't want to work on that. You know what? I know a quick way to check it, I believe. If we set 2994 on here, and then change that over to Q as 1014. I'll bet that works. There's a way to, you know what? I'll bet our thing works too. Let's put in 1014 real quick, and then hide the keyboard. Okay, so 2994. So it did convert it, but let's just leave this here for just a minute, and let's go over to our pilot utilities. Does it have a conversion in here? Volume, time, speed. I don't think temperature conversion is going to work. No, because that's just Celsius and Fahrenheit. That would be helpful if it had a pressure conversion in here, right? But I don't see it. Speed, length, weight, temperature, volume. Maybe, you know what? It's volume. Nope, it's not. and then time zone. So unfortunately it doesn't have pressure conversion in here, which kind of stinks because that'd be cool. So PMDG pressure conversion tool in here would be awesome. But you saw my little trick there. Just put it in the format you're using and then switch the knob, the back side of the knob, to the other format, and it gives you the proper one. Alright, and then our takeoff weight 752-100. Let's verify that. If we jump over here, takeoff weight 752-100, and what was our outside air temperature? Or that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for center of gravity, 19%, right? So it didn't take that over there for some reason, but we can put that in ourselves. So just click show keyboard first, then click on that, and then put in 19. And I don't think we need to put in the percent symbol. I don't normally use this like this. I usually just stick with the FMC. And so there's all of our information though, right, for our takeoff. So we can calculate now. And let's see what it says. So it says V1 is 141, VR is 141, and then V2 is 160. Now, you can pop this up. I probably should have showed that from the start. If you see the little plus sign there, just click on it, and it pops it up here. So if you don't want to sit down at this view. But if we do that, and then we jump over here, and we can move this, we have 135, 143, 160. They're not the same. I don't know why they're not the same, and I don't know which one's supposed to be more accurate. I have no idea. Because I don't know what's causing the difference here. So outside air temperature is 23. Maybe that has to do with it. Let's try that real quick. Show keyboard. Let's click on this and let's go 23. And I think you need to put the C in there. So hide keyboard, 23 Celsius. Now let's recalculate. Give it a second. 141, 141, 160. You see where I'm coming from? So I'm not sure why. We're doing a takeoff, right? Takeoff. What is an ATM? I'm not sure what that is, to be honest with you. But anyway, I'm going to stick with the V speeds that are in my FMC because I know those are going to work. All right. But you can see that you can calculate all that in here. All right. You can pull up, there's airport information here, right? So you can, let's see. I think OK just gets rid of it, but you've got information on your airport. This is our runway information here. You've got obstacles. If there's any obstacles, they'll be listed here. And then airport comment, right? So look at this. So my source file, this is flight beam scenery. That's what that comment's telling us, right? So if you can always check that out. Runway comment, slope information not available, TOTA information not available. Why? Because it's P3D. There is no slope in this. All right, so you've got your runway information or your airport information in there. You can add airports. You can pull up NOTAMs. And so on NOTAMs, this is you adding stuff, right? So there's tons of NOTAMs on my flight plan. I could add those. I could add if there's new obstacles in there, stuff like that. And all of that will become part of our, let me cancel that, will become part of our calculations here. I just don't understand why it's calculating the V speeds different, and this is, I've seen this just about every time I've used it. So you can also do weight and balance in here. Maybe that's why. You know what? I'll bet you that is why. So if we go here and we look at our, go back to our payload. All right. So we're looking at, we got cargo, other, and fuel. All right. Now this is a lot to try and fill out, right? You can see our cargo here, and we know our total cargo was supposed to be, let me look it up again, 246.1. What about read from aircraft? Payload and fuel data imported from aircraft. Sweet, right? So now it breaks this down for us. The other way of doing it is you could go in here first, and you could fill all this out, and you could send it to the aircraft to fill all that out. But if we look at our fuel here, we can see this gives us our all our weight and balances down here. It gives us our fuel, so 26,800, 35,720, and 8920, and so on, right? So, and then other is going to be, I don't know, spare. I guess that's spare tires or something. And then you can add stuff in here too if you want, right? Okay, so let's complete that. Now let's recalculate this. Same V speeds. What is show full? I haven't ever used that before. It doesn't show us anything. Let's just, oh, wait a minute. That changed them, didn't it? So that calculated it, and then if I hit show full, that changed it. Didn't it? That changed it to what we have over here. Oh, Captain Mac learned something here with you. I know this section's taken a while, but I think this is important because if you're going to use this thing, you need to know how to use it. So look at that. By hitting show full, so I don't know what ATM is, right? Yeah, I don't. Auto throttle max. I don't know what ATM is, and I didn't see it when I went through the manual, and I'm not going to dig through it right now. But if I'm on show ATM, it's showing 141 and 160, right? But if I hit show full, it changes it. So make sure you hit show full if you want them to line up, because now it does, right? Now we've got them exactly the same. So sweet. So that's our takeoff, all right? And I know I'm taking a little while here. I'm learning a little as we go too. That's always a good thing. You can also show landing, and then you could set up everything for your landing here as well. We're not going to do that right now, all right? Then the last thing I want to go over on this is going to be your terminal charts. Now remember, if you click this and you have a Navigraph subscription, you can log in and use your Navigraph charts. If you don't, I don't think you can even use terminal charts. If you don't have Navigraph, use the documents function. Again, it's going to be your P3D main folder. It's going to be PMDG folder. Then you're going to see an EFB folder, and then inside that EFB, you're going to see a common folder, and I think it's EFB data or documents, and then a common folder and a 747-8 folder. All right. So again, you can look in here, going to the go into the document section, look at the EFB manual, or maybe it was under customization. Yeah, it's under this one. It's customization. So click on that and it tells you right here, root sim folder, PMDG, EFB documents library, and then the common folder, if you put it in there, it's included in any PMDG aircraft you have that has an EFB option installed. If you put it in the 747 folder, it will only show up in the 747. You guys tracking on that? So you guys should know by now you can download PDF charts. Download them, follow these directions here, okay? The EFB customization, follow those directions, and then you will have your charts available. They'll show up right in here. So make sure you name them in a manner that's easy to understand. Okay, enough about that. Last thing we're going to do, terminal charts. Okay, easiest way to do this, you can either put them in yourself or you can just use airports from FMS. That's what I want to do because that's simple, right? But now I could complete this, but I did forget one step. So go back to menu, initialize flight. I didn't do it yet because we're going to all that other stuff. Initialize flight. Now go to terminal charts. They're still in there, complete, unless you want to put in alternates. All right. So if I go back, you can use from FMS, and then you can show alternates. I'm not putting them in. I don't care. All right. So complete, and it's going to show your airport ground chart automatically. You see your Phoenix, SFO, alternate 1, 2, 3, and 4. This would, if you put in alternates, it'll have an alternate listed here. You know what? Let me just show you that real quick. So let's say show alternates, and let's just say I want KLAX to be an alternate. That wouldn't be a good one, but I'm just going to put it in there real quick. All right? And then I'm going to complete. Now it shows LAX in there. So I get the same thing for LAX that I get for San Francisco and Phoenix. Okay? And you're thinking to yourself, okay, great. So after all that, I get a ground chart. No, you can get all charts. Go to Edit Clip, and then you've got ground charts. All right? You've got departures, arrivals, approaches, information charts, or you can hit all and just go through them. All right, so we've got our ground chart for Phoenix already. I want my departure, which was what was it called again? I've never even heard of that departure before, actually. It's the Keynes 2. So I'm going to look on here. Where is the Keynes 2? Oh, there it is. Highlight it like that. That's it. That's all I got to do. If I want any information pages, I can pull those up as well. And then once I'm done, hit complete. Hey, look at that. They're both in there. If I click on it, there's our Keynes 2 departure. All right. Now, if I want, I can go to Show Menu, and you can use the line select keys or the touchpad. I just use the touchpad. It's easier. And I can rotate it. All right. I can zoom it in using these keys here. All right, or I can zoom it in using these keys here. Reset zoom. You can use this zoom function here. See how I drag across it and it zooms into where I dragged across. Okay, reset the zoom. And then what I typically will do is put it in night mode because it's just a little easier to see the charts on here. Okay, remember this is a touchpad, so if I zoom down and I want to look down here, I can just drag the chart. All right. And then I can go back here and I can reset the zoom anytime I want. And there you go. It's pretty straightforward. Easy to use, right? And then if I want to switch charts, I just go back and I switch to the next chart. It stays in night mode. All right, now one thing to keep in mind though is it keeps the charts rotated, right? So this chart, if I want to, and it only rotates one direction. So that's not the way I want it. Then I got to rotate again. Now it's upside down. Then I got to rotate again. That's kind of a feature I don't really care for in it. I think that it should maybe be easier to rotate or have more rotate options, to be honest with you. But it is what it is. It's not terrible. And then again, I can just zoom in and I can say, okay, well, I know where we're at. We're at the cargo ramp right here. Or no, we're at West Cargo. So we're right over here, right? So then I can plan my taxi route accordingly and so on. All right, so that's how you use the charts in here. I would do the same thing for SFO. I would go to Edit Clip, and then I would choose my arrival, which I haven't chosen yet, and then I could choose my approach chart. So let's just say we were running this approach. I can choose that. Then I can click on it, and bam, I've got my approach chart right there. Now, I don't use the charts function in here very much because I use Sim Toolkit Pro, and I really like that program. It just works better for me. But just know that this is available to you, all right? And I think that covers everything, right? We covered data load. We don't want to close out the flight yet. Yeah, we've covered everything. So that is how you operate the EFB in this aircraft. And again, there's a little more to it. There's more stuff you can do. Dig in and find out for yourself. But now you got the basics. So surely by now you see why we're on ground power and not using the APU. We'd burn up our entire trip fuel just going through all of this. But like I said, this is a full flight tutorial, and this whole section takes a little while. Now we do need to press on. So we've taken care of our power up, our initial pre-flight, our FMC initialization. We've gone through the EFB pretty well in depth. We need to press on with our pre-flight. So the IRS mode selectors, we've got them on nav now, and we needed to do that, and I think that's part of the reason this is laid out the way it is, because there's another FMC section on this this checklist later on, and that's probably why it's set up that way. But just know that if you want your V speeds to show up, you got to make sure that you finish the alignment of the IRS. Moving on, the standby power selector needs to go to battery, then auto. I don't know why this is, but it tells you to do it. So right click, and then back to auto. I don't know what that does. Left and right utility power switches need to be on. That's these two right here. Bus tie switches need to be to auto. That's all four of these right here, and you can see clearly that they are. Generator contactors need to be on. That's these four down below. Okay, they say off, but they also say on. All right, and that's because the engines aren't running yet. Drive disconnect switches need to be normal. That's these four here. I never touch them. They're guarded for a reason. I'm not touching them because I really don't understand what they do. I did that one time in the 400 model, and it caused major issues. You have to reload the aircraft. Okay, or something to do with ground maintenance. Somebody told me, they commented in the video, like you have to have, in the real world, ground maintenance has to reset those. All right, hydraulic demand pump selectors all need to be off. That's these four right here. All right, and then the hydraulic engine pump switches all need to be on, which is these four right here. All right, hydraulic quantity needs to be checked. Now it's easy to check, but this is another one where I really have no idea how much there's supposed to be in there. So I'll pop this up for you again. We'll click on hydraulic, and you can see the quantity right here. So you got 1.12, 0.96, 0.99, 1.02. Now at one point I did select the option in the FMC to refill that. Those numbers didn't really change much, so I'm assuming we're probably good. Now we do the fire overheat test. Jump back up top. This one's really simple. You're just going to hold down this button until it stops, and then let go, and everything will shut off. Okay, so hold it until it stops. Because if you let go early, it doesn't complete the test. So hold it till it stops, okay? Emergency exit lights can be armed at this point. Just left click. There we go. Emergency exit lights are armed. Service interphone switch off. That's this guy right here. No, that's this guy right here. Service interphone switch off. I missed this one. Observer audio system switch normal. That's this one right here. Observer audio system switch normal. And then service interphone off. And the cargo cabin phone for us is off as well. And then it says cargo fire forward and aft switches are disarmed, and the cargo fire discharge switch is normal. That's these switches here. They're disarmed. If you press them, they're armed. And then this switch is normal. Abnormal would be turned on, right? Obviously, we don't want to do that. Moving on, standby ignition switch needs to be to normal. There is no standby ignition switch on this, but for the, now I haven't looked in the passenger model. On the 400 it was right here. Okay, so if you have a passenger model and there's switches right here, you're going to have a standby ignition switch and a continuous ignition selector and an auto ignition selector. All three of those would be right here if they're in the passenger model. They are in the 400, but again, this is the 800. The auto start on this aircraft is built into the computer system. You don't actually turn it on. Same thing with the continuous ignition and standby ignition. All those are built right into the computer system. That's why those switches are gone here. And it's probably the same in the passenger version, but again, if you have switches right here, that's those three. All right, and that's like one of the few differences you'll find between the passenger and the freighter that are visible to you, right? Okay, left and right jettison nozzle switches are off. That's these two right here. That's the jettison fuel. All fuel pumps need to be off, which they are, all 12, 13, 14 of them. Okay. Fuel crossfeed switches as required. Now there's a way to do this. It has to do with which tanks have more fuel, and honestly I forget off the top of my head, but we'll be reminded by our ICAS if we got it wrong. So if I remember correctly though, if this one is more than this one and this one is more than this one, then the crossfeeds will go off, which I believe is correct, but we'll see. If we get, when we start the engines, if we get the warning, it says well, if we get it, I'll show it to you, and that'll tell us to turn those off. If you have them off and you get that warning, that means you got to turn them on. I just can't remember if it's these are more than these or these are more than these. I can't remember which way they go. So my bad, but it is what it is. Wing anti-ice needs to be on auto. That's back up top here. All right, this is the wing anti-ice, and then nacelle anti-ice needs to be off. It's the engine anti-ice is the nacelle anti-ice. Okay. Windshield wiper switches are off, which is right here, these two. Okay, and then here's one that you're not going to see in here, so we're going to jump back over this way. So you got the passenger oxygen switch would be normal. We've got supernumerary oxygen, which is normal. All right, so in the passenger version, you should have a passenger oxygen switch here. Then your yaw damper switches, these two need to be on. And then landing altitude, so we're jumping down to this one here. Landing altitude, it says auto. All right, so this is our landing altitude. We're not touching it. We're just leaving it alone. It is auto. All right, and then you've got your outflow valve manual switches are off. That's these two down here. And then outflow valves verify open. That's this little dial right here. So CL is closed, OP is open, and you can see the arrow is pointed all the way up top, which means they're open all the way. Cabin altitude auto selector is normal. That's this guy right here. And then passenger temperature selector and flight deck temperature selector. So we don't have a passenger temperature selector. Okay, we're on this panel here. We don't have passenger temperature selector because we don't have passengers. All right. So the flight deck temperature is on auto. We can turn on the fan and you'll hear it. So you can hear the fan comes on. We'll turn it back off. But passenger temperature selector, again, I haven't looked in the passenger model because I just don't fly it right now, but that would be right here somewhere. And then we've also got our main deck temperature and lower temperature, what does that say, lobe? Lower lobe temperature as well. So your passenger temperature controls are going to be right here. I can tell you that right now. They're going to be right here. So if you're looking for that, that's where you should be looking. Flight deck temperature selector is good. Zone system fault light extinguished. Where's the zone? I don't think we have a zone system light because I believe that is specific to the passenger model. But we do have, we got trim air switch. We don't have trim air. Yes, we do. We have trim air right here. It's the gasper that we don't have, or the recirc fans. All right. So this is your trim air. And then in the passenger version, this again, there's a few minor differences. You're going to have recirc fans, and I believe you'll have a gasper switch as well. And those are all still going to be right here on this panel. All right. Aft cargo heat switch is off. We don't have that switch. I think that is for the passenger model as well because we're all cargo. So this is our aft right here is for main deck and lower. This is our aft cargo heat right here, right? So anyway, the point is that sounds to me like it's passenger model specific. So again, you're going to see a few different things on this panel for the passenger version of the aircraft. Equipment cooling selector needs to be normal. All right, that's this guy right here. However, if the temperature is less than 21 degrees Celsius, meaning it's getting cold, then you can put this on override. We're just going to leave it as is. Pack system fault light needs to be extinguished. This reset light here, it says system fault. Click it, it gets rid of it, you're done. All right, and then the next one is Gasper fan. Again, there is no Gasper fan on this one. That's going to be specific. I don't know what those items are specifically, like what they do, so I don't know what the recirc fan makes sense, right? I mean, it recirculates the air. I don't know what the Gasper fan is for, but that's going to be specific to the passenger model. So again, if you're flying a passenger version of this aircraft, this panel right here is going to have a couple things a little different, but you know where to find them now, right? Okay, moving on. It says pack control selectors normal. That's these three right here. 1, 2, and 3 all on normal. Left and right isolation valve switches are both on. That's these two here. That's off. That's on. You see the light? They're connected, right? APU bleed air switch is on, and then all 4 of your engine bleed air switches are on as well. Then from there we could go to our radio tuning panel, which of course would be all the way back. Nope, that's the wrong button. It would be all the way back here, right? And then you could tune your radios and so on. Keep in mind that the nav radios are actually dealt with through the FMC. There is something specific to this data link, and I didn't cover it before, but this is a good place to just cover it really quick and very briefly. Okay, this data link has to do with the upcoming global flight operations for PMDG. Some of you may be aware of that, some of you may be not. The point is very simple. You can, right now, all you can do is go in and do the pre-flight information, which we are not going to do. I'm not even going to mess with it, okay? But eventually, when their global flight operations is set up and running, all of this stuff is supposed to be active, and you can use it for that. So when that time comes, I will take a close look at that, and if needed, we'll do a tutorial specifically on the global flight operations. Everybody tracking on that? Fantastic. Other than that, you don't use this for your basic FMC operations, okay? We could tune our radios here. Nav radios are tuned with this guy here using nav radio, so keep that in mind. This is where you do your nav radios. And I think you change them in here too, right? Like if we wanted to go 116.0, and I think you just select that, and there you go, we're at 116.0, right? So of course we want it where it was, so that's Tucson there. So 115.6, we'll put it back on that because we don't want to mess with our navigation. Okay, so 115.6, and that should put us back at PXR. There we go, PXR. Okay, so and then they should be separate, I think. Go back to FMC, nav radio. Not sure. I should have looked when I changed it, but they should be independent of each other, just so you know. But anyway, that's where you tune your radios for your navigation. All right, and we need to go to takeoff page. And then you tune your radios for comms back here. All right, we're not using ATC, obviously, so we're not going to be tuning radios for comms today. Moving on. Weather panel, you can set that. Listen, unless you really, I'm not going in depth on a weather panel. There are plenty of things about it I don't fully understand. So to simplify, just leave it alone. Unless you know what you're doing with it, just leave it alone. And I'm not going to sit here and try and do a tutorial on it because it's not necessary. For us, weather is going to be simply clicking this button. Weather will display on the nav display here. Audio control panel is set. We're not going to test the data printer. We don't need to, but that's on this checklist. And then for this list, it goes into FMC navigation data, but we've already done that. So we're going to press on with our normal procedures here, our pre-flight. So TCAS system test. So this one's different than it is in the 400. Here's your TCAS system here. All right, we're going to put in our code. All right, but you don't press anything to test it. Okay, we're just going to put it to transponder and leave it. It does its own test internally, and if there's a problem, it tells you there's a problem. Okay, so transponder code is set, and then transponder mode set to transponder. VOR and ADF switches, we can set those as required. Altimeter, we already set that a little while ago, and we did that to make sure we were set properly. Remember, I changed this. It was on inches. I changed it to 29 or 9 or 4, and then I right-click back here, and that told us 1014, and that was for the purpose of our EFB. One of those settings in there, and I didn't look, but we can just glance real quick. Oh my goodness. What was it on there? It was not system page, right? See, even I got to remember. Preferences, yeah. So it should be in here, actually. Knots, pounds. Where's... I guess it's not in here. I would have thought that the option to choose whether or not it was in inches of mercury or pounds, or you know what I'm talking about. I just can't think of the word right now. You would have thought that would have been in here. That's the point I'm getting at, right? But it's not, obviously, so it is what it is. Moving on. Let's get back to the program in hand, because we're already running really long. Traffic display. So on your nav display, if you press this button right in the middle, that's for traffic. It says TCAS is off because it is, but when we turn TCAS on to TARA, our traffic will show up on here. Nav display options as required. There are plenty of options on here. The main option that we will be using is the airport option. And the reason that we're using that is when you click on airport, okay, and use that EFB to scan your files. Remember, I showed you how to do that. Go back to the EFB section if you need to. Scan your files in there. Because when you do that, you get this. Taxiways. All I got to do is zoom it down. You must have the airport option selected and then zoom in and you get taxiways, right? So if you don't scan your files, let's say you load a new airport in. Let's say I just loaded this Flightbeam KPHX airport, but I didn't do the scan in the EFB, then the taxiways will show up for the default in here. And so that can cause problems. So make sure you go in there, scan your files, and then you can use the taxiway function on here as well. And I need to cough again. Oh, somebody asked me if I'm a smoker. I mentioned this before. I'm not a smoker. I have allergies, and they can get pretty bad sometimes. So I apologize, but I mean that's where you get the Captain Mac cough from, right? Otherwise, you don't have a Captain Mac video. So let me take a drink. All right. So I know I'm talking a lot here. That's what I do. Let's move on. Flight directors need to be on if they're not already. We can flip those on. Both of these guys come on. Auto throttle, it's actually supposed to be off is what it says. So we're going to go with that for now. Bank limit selector, that's the guy behind this, right? So that's 5, 10, so on. Leave it on auto. Trust me. MCP heading and altitude needs to be set. So we're going to be taking runway 8, which is 078 degrees. So I'm going to put this at 078. 7... Come on, there we go, 078, and I'm going to pull up my Navigraph over here. This is one of the things I just absolutely love about this Sim Toolkit Pro. Let me show you here real quick. Okay, so normally if you're like me, you've got a flight plan, you've got your charts pulled up, you've got your active sky weather, all of that stuff. And these are all programs that are running off to the side. Okay, my active sky is down on the tray because I can pull it up right here just by clicking active sky. I can refresh it right here. Okay, and I can get current weather, and then that weather translates from here up to here and so on. Okay, I've got my flight plan is always available to me right here. I've got a scratch pad in case I need to type some notes, anything like that. I've got a map on here, all that stuff. But Navigraph charts right here. I don't have to have my Navigraph desktop charts thing open because it's available to me right here. I've pinned my charts down here. There's my airport chart right there, and there's my departure chart right there. And I can look at this and I can say, okay, what altitude restrictions do I have? Well, the only altitude restriction I have on my departure is at or above 7,000 feet. So I can go straight on up. That is one thing I do with this all the time. If you grab, you got to grab like, don't grab up high. I don't know. I just, anyway. So I don't have an altitude restriction that keeps me below anything, right? So we'll just take this all the way up to 340. That was my point. But I really like that Sim Toolkit Pro, you guys. If you haven't tried it yet, check it out. Okay, it's free. Doesn't cost you anything. All right, it's free. So go check it out. Anyway, moving on. Where are we at here? Auto throttle is good. MCP heading and altitude are set. Autopilot disengage switches up. We need to set It doesn't say it on here for some. It might say it later on, but we need to set our V2 plus 5 in here. So V2 is 160, so we're going to be at 165 here. That's too low. There we go. And then what else we got? We can arm LNAV and VNAV. I like to arm them now just so I don't forget later. Radio altimeter is checked and set. Source select panel is set. Clock we can check and set. If you just click on the clock, we don't need to do anything with that. PFD is good. Nav display is good. Standby flight instruments, that's these guys down here. Alright, I'll pop that up for you. Make sure that the altimeter is set on that. That's an option in here to have them all sync up, so you change one and it changes all of them. If you don't do that, then you got to change them individually. Keep that in mind. Heading reference switch is set to normal, which it is. FMC source select, that's over here. Alright, and we're on the left. So this is where you can make selections for which source you're using and so on. And then you're going to have the same thing over on the first officer side. We're not messing with that. Primary ICAS is good. The warnings we have right now are from what we've done up to this point. Oil quantity, same thing to check it. You can just pull it up on here and you can check it, but I don't know what it needs to be. But it's on the status page, I believe. No, it's on the engines page. I apologize. So if you go to the secondary engines page, I'll pop it up for you. There's your oil quantity right there. Okay. Moving on, alternate gear extension switches need to be off. That's these guys right here. They are off. Leave them alone. And then you've got, is that one next? No, ground proximity panel is next. That's this guy here. Leave them alone as well. There's nothing to do with them. However, you can put things on, you can use these at some point. I don't have a button that goes over there. Let's just fly. The magic of chase plane, right? Down we go. So let's say you're flying into an airport that's got, you're going to be flying pretty close to the terrain, but that's the approved approach. All right, you can select the terrain override, and you won't get that terrain warning constantly. Same thing for gear flaps, so on and so forth. Mostly would be used in emergencies, but those are available to you if you want to use them later on. Okay, speed brake lever is down. That's this guy right here, and it is. Thrust levers are in the idle position. Parking brake is not set, but it is now. Stab trim cutout switches are closed. That's these two here. Leave them alone. You don't need to do anything with them. And then from here, it would take us to the rest of our FMC, but we've already done that. So the last thing we need to do is we need to set the MCP speed, which we've already done. And that, ladies and gentlemen, finally completes our pre-flight procedure. The only thing left is the pre-flight checklist itself, which is battery switch is on, standby power switch is auto, hydraulic demand pumps are off, parking brake is set, landing gear lever is down, flat position indicator and lever agree, fuel control switches are cut off, anti-ice, the nacelle anti-ice is off, oxygen is checked, emergency exit lights are armed, and the altimeters are set. That completes our pre-flight checklist. Man, that is a whole lot of information, isn't it? Now, I just want to highlight one point there. If you have a basic checklist, it will cover most of this stuff anyway, but you notice that we went through a whole lot of stuff and then we had a checklist that had like, what, 10 items on it? Alright, so there is a difference between procedures and checklists. Procedures are things that eventually become your flows. You do them pretty much automatically without thinking about it, and the longer you fly an aircraft, the easier it gets, right? And then the checklist is just to make sure that the key items have been taken care of, all right? But at this point, where we're going to move to is our before start procedures. Now, there is something missing on here. It's on the checklist, but it's not on the procedure, and I'm just going to grab this and write it down real quick so that I don't forget, and that's doors. Because as you can see, our doors are all still open, right? Alright, so starting, well, it does have the flight deck door. Starting with our before start procedures, the flight deck door is locked. Now things are going to get shorter now, other than me talking a lot. Hydraulic demand pump 4 needs to go on auxiliary. That's up top here. So you're going to left click this guy once, and then hydraulic demand pump 1, 2, and 3 all go to auto. There we go. Fuel quantity and distribution has been checked. Fuel pumps all need to come on. Only the one, I'm only turning on the ones that have a pressure light. There's nowhere on here where it tells me window heat, but we need the window heat on, so let's turn it on. I never saw it on any checklist or procedure on the one I have. It might be on the one you have. Okay, moving on. Duct pressure check. Well, I don't know what it's supposed to be, but you can check your duct pressure by coming down here. You're using this guy right here, and we're going to use the ECS. That's where our ducts are at. Right now, the pressure is 0 on all of them, right? Because we're not doing anything with them. I don't know why it's 0 though. Maybe it's not supposed to be. I'll bet you though, if I took this and I went to ground connections and let's see, ground power. No, I mean I've got the air conditioning unit connected, but all the pack controls, it shows them off. Why? Because the packs aren't doing anything right now. The APU's not running. If I turn the APU on, we'll have duct pressure. So I'll try to remember to show that when we get to it. Let's shrink that back down. Moving on. LNAV and VNAV are both already armed for us, and then pack control selectors 2 and 3 go off. Now remember, we are doing our before start here, so 2 and 3 go off because we don't want those on when we start the engines. Beacon goes on both now. Alright, and then like I said, doors. Now I want to show you something here real quick. If I select this other external power, alright, see how that changed some things? Some lights went off, some other lights came on, okay, because we're using that power now, right? But watch this. I'm going to pop it up for you here. I can't close that nose cargo door. Alright, go here, close, close, close. I'm clicking it, close. It won't do anything, right? Jump back up here real quick. Turn this guy off. There we go. Back down here. Close. Come on, close. Oh, now it doesn't want to do it. You bugger. It will close, I promise you. Oh, I know why. No, I know what the problem is. I'm an idiot. Return. You see how it's jumping. It wasn't doing that before, but it's the service vehicle. Alright, we need to release it first. Release that. That's the only one we asked for. Go back here to doors. Now watch, it'll close now. Close. There we go. Alright. So if you try to close it with the service vehicle there, it's not going to close, right? And that's the service vehicle. So it won't close when that's in the up position. You got to release that, and it won't close if you have both of those on. In fact, I can stop it from closing right now while it's closing. Turn that on. It stopped. See? Okay. Turn it back off, and it starts closing again. So you have to have one of those off in order to operate that door. So keep that in mind. Now, to simplify, let's go back to doors and close all. Alright? And that should take care of closing the rest of our doors. Although I don't think I ever opened, like GSX is probably saying right now, request refueling, waiting for you to open entry 1 left. I never opened this door for our pilots to get on the aircraft. In fact, I think there's a couple doors I never finished opening doors. He's waiting to load cargo, right? This is what happens. I get talking, see? So I'm going to open this one, and then we're going to go next page, and he is the side cargo. So I'm going to open that one, and then what you'll see here is he's going to finally get to load all that cargo, and that's fine. We got a few minutes left. And then here comes our pilots right here, right? So the pilots are going to get on the airplane. Well, there's one of them anyway. Oh, there he is. He's just taking his time. Alright, so our pilots will get on the aircraft. He'll finish loading that cargo. We can finish our before start stuff. So the point I was driving at here is we need to make sure all our doors are closed before we can start, right? So we'll click on doors here. You can see those 2 doors are open. That's alright. We're aware of that. I'm going to leave that page up. Okay, and then that'll take us to our before start checklist. So hydraulic demand pumps 4 is on auxiliary, fuel load and pumps are checked and the pumps are on. The APU is not on yet. We can go ahead and start that APU while they finish loading that cargo. Very simple to do. Left click once to on, a second time to start. If you want to see the progress of the APU, hit the status page. And I'll pop it up for you, and you can see here's the APU right here. Exhaust gas temperature is at 24 right now, N1's at 0. Oh, all of a sudden it's moving, right? Okay, that's the APU starting up. When it's fully started up, all of these will stop moving, and you'll see on here, it'll say APU is running. So keep that in mind while that APU is getting started up. The beacon is already on both. We've done that. Doors will be closed and auto, and then passenger signs are on, and that'll take us up to our pushback. So I'm going to stop the video for just a minute here. I'm going to let them finish loading cargo, and then I'll come back and we'll do our push and start. Alright, we got all our doors closed. I had to turn GSX off. I was having an issue. The issue was my own fault, but it is what it is. So we're going to use the pushback feature that's built into the aircraft, which is good anyway, because if you don't have GSX, then you want to know how to push it back, right? And if you do have GSX, you already know how to use GSX. So double check our doors real quick. Those are good to go. Now we want to jump up top here. I have both of the APU generators on now. We've disconnected ground power, so ground power is off. And what else we need to do? That's pretty much it, except the pushback itself. So the pushback feature that's built into the aircraft, first things first, double check, make sure your parking brake is on. It is. Let's go to menu, FS actions, ground connections, and we can disconnect the chocks or remove the chocks. Alright, now we'll go back here, and here's our pushback feature. Select that. Distance to taxi line, I honestly don't know how far it is. Look, the chocks are set again. Oh, that's frustrating. Pushback style, none or other. Self-drive, I've never tried that. Straight out, okay? I'm going to leave it at 328. You can do a turn as well. You can go standard left turn, or you can change it to... I don't use it really. Dot the I don't know what that is. Cross the T. I don't use those. So we'll just go straight out. That'll work fine. And then select tug, TPX 200 or none. We'll go with TPX 200. That's fine. And then we'll select start.
Cockpit to ground. Go ahead. We've been cleared for pushback and start straight back. Roger that. Ready for push straight back. Brakes off.
So he said brakes off, so release the brakes. What? No, I don't want to see the log. Yes.
Brakes released.
Awesome. Right in the middle of a tutorial. There's the tug, which is not big enough for that airplane. Is he going to start pushing or what?
Brakes released. Here we go.
Okay. Alright, so yeah, obviously my Codal scripting engine stopped. That's awesome. Okay, so let's take care of the startup now. It's very simple. It's an auto start procedure. We're going to select the engines for this one down here. We're going to start 2 engines at once. You can do it 1 at a time or 2 at once. It's up to you. We're going to do 1 and 4 first. So we're going to left click, hop back down here. And as soon as you see that your N2 is coming up, which it is on both, go ahead and introduce fuel. Just like that. And you'll see it shows right here, auto start. Alright. Simple enough. And then you just wait. He's going to push us straight back. I don't know what all's going on with this thing, but it is what it is. Let's clear the ICAS here. Oh, goodness gracious. It's the little issues that sometimes they start to wear on you a little bit, right? Let's have a looky-see here. You can see her starting up there. When I start the next 2, I'll give you the full view of this one here, just because it's worth watching. The engines are beautiful.
Pushback complete. Parking brake, please.
Alright, he wants us to set the parking brake. There we go. He'll
Brake
finish
set.
his thing. And we're just waiting for the engines to stabilize. Now, they should stabilize around 200. Usually 222 is what they stabilize at for me. So we'll just give them a second to get there.
Watch for the slip release from guidance on your left. Have a good flight.
Yep, okay. See you later. 218 it looks like. That warning is because the hydraulic pressure 4 is on auxiliary. That's alright. So going back up top, now you're doing engines 2 and 3. So same thing, left click, come down here, and you see the N2's coming up, so we introduce fuel, and let's watch it do its thing. There she is, spin it up. So the N2 is the fan, the rotor behind the one you see. N1 is the rotor that you can see. This is the low pressure rotor, and N2 is the high pressure rotor. I believe. I might have that wrong, but I'm pretty sure I got that right. I looked that up recently. Let me shrink that back down. And when it fully starts, it always goes silent for just a second. And I think that's the sound file changing. It just made a liar out of me. It didn't do it that time. Okay, enough watching the engines. Now we're just waiting for them to stabilize, which they're getting close right now. Both of those went off. Engines are stabilizing, and that completes our engine start procedure. So that was probably the shortest portion we had on these on this entire tutorial so far, but let's go ahead and move into our after start procedure. First things first, APU as required. We don't need the APU. Generators are already off. Left click it, it turns it off, and you're done. Hydraulic demand pump 4 needs to go to auto. Take care of that real quick. Pack control selectors, this says after 2 minutes you'll put them on normal. It hasn't quite been 2 minutes yet, so I'm going to leave those as they are. And then we'll come back to those here momentarily. Alright, aft cargo heat switch is on. We don't need to worry about that. That's passenger model. Engine indications are normal. We can look at those down here. We can see we're stabilized at 218 on all of those. And if you want to see, it's 631 and 1.4 on the fuel flow. Oil pressure, oil temperature, oil quantity. Everything looks good. There's nothing showing red or giving us a warning. Nacelle anti-ice as required. We're going to put that on auto, so just left click them once. That puts them in the center position, which is auto. Auto brakes need to go to RTO. And I need to readjust this because it went away. So 340, there we go. Flaps set for takeoff, so it's going to be flaps 20. So that's what, 1, that's 5, 10, and then 20. So that's some pretty heavy duty flaps. Stabilizer trim needs to be set. I like to do this on this guy right here because we're going to have to do flight control check too. So if you click here, okay, that's to control this display. And then select flight controls is this one over here. You can see there's your stab trim, and I'll pop it up for you real quick so you can see stab trim is at 6, and down here we can see stab trim needs to be at 7.0, right? Which is pretty high, but it's because we're so heavy. So I'll trim it up real quick. That's too far. There we go, 7.0. And then the next thing on our list is rudder and aileron trim set 0, which we don't mess with, and then we do a flight controls check. So full left. There we go. Full right. There we go. It's neutral all the way up, all the way down, and neutral. And you're supposed to do them slow and deliberate. Rudder pedals, full left, full right, and neutral. Now I just want to note real quick, I got this new yoke. It's the Honeycomb Alpha 1 yoke, or Alpha yoke. Let me tell you, this thing is fan-stinkin-tastic. I can't wait till their throttles come out. I will be getting them. It's expensive, it's not cheap, but let me tell you, compared to the old yoke I had, this thing is amazing. So if you have any interest in that, yeah, grab it. Worth it. Why is it saying my chocks are on still? There we go. Oh, no, it said they were removed. I'm an idiot. Dirt. Let's pop that up and let's just get where we need to be. So I want this on the legs page. There we go. Okay, now we've taken care of flight controls. Let's move on. Primary ICUS, recall, and check, right? So checklist non-normal. I'll get into checklist here in just a second. Okay, so what do we got here? Auto throttle is disconnected, trim air is off, TCAS is off, temp zones, and fuel. This is the fuel one I was talking about. All right. So what do we need to take care of? That's telling us there's things that aren't done yet. Come up here. We can see our packs need to be reset. Put 2 and 3 on. Okay, that's going to take care of a couple of those. As far as the fuel goes, turn the cross feeds off. Now watch. That one's going to be gone now. We'll go to this view right here. There it went away. And now the only thing we have left is auto throttle is disconnected, which we know, and TCAS is off, which we know. Cancel and recall again. Okay. All right. Checklist non-normal keeps popping up. Let me show you the checklist real quick because I haven't shown you this at all. So we're going to go through it. I don't typically use it, so I always forget about it. But I'm going to pop it up so you can see it. It's easy to use. Click on checklist. Oh yeah, I got it on the wrong one. Nav, put it on the lower center, then click on checklist. Alright, and you scroll your mouse wheel to change options, and then you just click with the mouse, right? So this was all pre-flight. Well, we did all that, right? Fuel control switches aren't cut off anymore because we started the engines. So I use a paper checklist, and so I always forget to use this, but I'm sure in real world operations, and I've seen some in the 777, they do use this, so I need to try and remember to do it. Alright, so you just go in here. On this one, I'll select item override, whatever the magenta lines around, that's what you selected. Click on it, that takes care of that, go back to normal. Before start, we took care of that, right? So we can do all those, go back to normal. Then it's the before taxi checklist. The way I typically remember is I try to keep this checklist popped up as much as possible. So I'll leave it up, and that takes care of that. The primary ICAS recall has been checked. ACAR's off block time confirmed. That's probably going to become important when the PMDG global flight operations thing is up and running. And that takes us to our after start checklist, which we just went through on there real quick, right? So APU selector as required, it's off. Packs are on. Recall status is checked. Reference speeds are checked. Flaps are set to 20. Alright. Trim is set to 7.0 units. Flight controls have been checked, and auto brakes are set to RTO. So all we do is turn on our taxi lights, and we're ready to taxi out. And you can find those right up here. And we're ready for taxi. Alright, to be fair, we're not quite ready for taxi because there's a point in there somewhere, and it really should be before you do the pushback. But I got so wrapped up in the tutorial of the aircraft that I forgot about it. You gotta do your briefings. And I need to write that on my checklist, probably right at the end of the pre-flight checklist. Briefings need to be completed. So let's take care of that really quick here. And I'll just bring over my Sim Toolkit Pro. Love this thing. And let's look at our let's look at what we got going on here. Okay, first of all, we're at Phoenix. Our airport elevation is 1,135 feet. ATIS on 127.575. Clearance on 118.1. Ground control. I don't know if we're considered north or south at this point, but we'll just say 19.75. And then we're going to be taking runway 8, so the tower's on 118.7. Now, we are over here on East Cargo. We just pushed straight back here. So we're going to flip a UE here onto Delta, but, excuse me, because of the way Terminal 2 sticks out here, we're actually going to take Delta 5 over to Echo. And then we'll take this down to Tango, cross over to Charlie, and then Charlie all the way down here to hold short at Bravo 1 for runway 8 departure. Now, looking at the departure procedure, as you can see on here, there's quite a bit going on, but it's not too confusing. Alright, so runway 8 is this guy up here. We're going to take off and head out here to FUTEP, and then the ASCRUD is what I'm going to call it. USI or USI, massive. This one we need to be at or above 7,000. It says max 220 knots, but we're really heavy, and you can get an exemption from ATC when you're heavy to be over these speeds and to be over 250 below 10,000. And we probably will be. And then it's to Oakley, Woolco, Keens, EZO, and then we're using Harbor as our transition off. So it'll be Colts and then Harbor. Alright, and then you've got your initial climb information up here. So 7 left, right, and runway 8. Climb on heading 078 to 1,635 feet. Then it's direct to FUTEP, this one right here. Then on track 132 to ASCRUD, then 199 to USI, then 264 to Massive. And basically that's just explaining to you this whole deal right here to get all the way out here to EZO, and then from there it'll tell you to go on course, right? Departure frequency begins on 126.8, airport elevation 1,135 feet. There are takeoff minimums. We will have no problem meeting those. The big one is to make sure you get up to 1,635 feet, which shouldn't be a problem for us. Last things last, transition altitude at 18,000 feet, and that takes care of our taxi and departure briefing. Any questions? Of course not. It's a video. You can't ask me anything unless you put it in the comments. Alrighty, folks, that means we are actually ready to taxi at this point. Track car coming on a little jump here. Boom, there it is. Let's make sure we take those brakes off. We can do that just by pressing the brake pedal. Bring in a little bit of thrust here. Now, despite the fact that we are really heavy, this aircraft will get moving relatively easily. You can see it's already starting to go. We'll let it go a little bit, start our turn here, and then we're going to pull those throttles back, and it will coast quite well. They've done a pretty darn good job. Tell me he's not pushing back. He's not. They've done a very good job of dealing with the ground friction on this, right? So actually, I'm going to go right past the hold bay and just scoot on over to that other taxiway there. I think that'll be a little bit easier. All right, let's try and get on the line here, and let's get this bird moving just a little bit. We don't want to go too fast. You really shouldn't be turning over about 10 knots. You may not realize this, but pay attention if you ever get an opportunity when you're turning in your car. You're probably doing about 10 to 12 miles an hour, right? So when you turn at 10 knots in this aircraft, you're moving pretty quick. We're gonna have to come to a stop here because of doofus. Because AI thinks that they own everything. The taxiways, the runways, the hold short lines. They just think they own everything. Now, you can see as we turned here, our map turned with us. So let's scroll this down, and now see, you can scroll it all the way down really close. Alright, that's 0.12. Hopefully he'll actually go on the runway there. We don't want to be that close. I know where I'm going, so I'm going to put it right about there. Hopefully he gets out of the way quickly. I hate how their wheel doesn't turn. They just slide around. It just looks kind of pathetic. I apologize for the frame rates. My computer has pretty much had it at this point. It's pretty much just done. It doesn't want to really be good to me anymore. But I'm going to keep pressing on. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start our taxi, and I think for the full flight tutorial for this aircraft, I just think that it deserves a little cinematic. What do you guys think? Yeah, I think a little bit of music and a little cinematic as we taxi across the airfield here will be good. Alright, let's jump into our before takeoff procedures. Cabin report received, that's for passenger aircraft, not for cargo aircraft. Weather radar as required. Now, I'm going to zoom this out. There's probably some aircraft on their way in. I got to zoom it out, not in. Alright, let's put it at 10 nautical miles, and then I'm going to flip on the TCAS because that's going to be part of our procedure anyway. So 2 clicks, 1, 2, and then any aircraft on approach should show up. And then I'm going to turn the weather radar on right now. You wouldn't really do it until you get on the runway, but it's a tutorial. I'm focused on other things here. So let me adjust our altimeter is adjusted. It's been quite a while here. Auto throttle needs to be armed at this point. LNAV and VNAV can be armed. We had them armed earlier. They disarmed because I made a mistake. Before taxi checklist. See, I told you I forget these all the time. We didn't actually do this. Those are good though. Those are good. And then it's for our before takeoff checklist, which is just flaps 20. We'll put that to the after takeoff now. And the items that, like, it's landing gear up and flaps up, those will automatically check off once they're done. Transponder modes on TARA. Bias needs to be above, and that is this little tiny knob right here. Left click it and that puts the bias above. If you right click it, from there it goes back to neutral, and then right click again, it goes to below. Packs 2 and 3 as required. We're leaving those on. You can see everything's good up here. We don't have any lights indicating an issue. Exterior lights as required. I don't see anybody on the approach path, so let's get the landing lights on. Runway turn-off lights on, and strobe lights, and then wing lights. All these come on up here. So we'll just hop up so you can see them. So all of our lights. We don't need the logo light right now. It's daytime, but all of these lights on as well. And elapsed time needs to go to 0. So you just hit your clock here. If you've already got it running, click it again, and it'll go back to. It'll stop. Click it again. It'll reset, and then one more time to start it again. And that takes us to our before takeoff checklist. Vital data has been checked. Packs are set as required. Cabin crew is notified. There is an aircraft on approach now. You can see there's in fact 2 of them, which is going to turn into the typical disaster that you see with AI traffic. And let's see if we can see them coming in here. This is sort of becoming a game now, like who's gonna go around. Where are they at? They're just too far out to be drawn on the sim right now, it looks like. Alright, well, let's just give them just a second here. They're about 5 miles out. Takeoff is going to be pretty straightforward. I'm trying to get in the habit of doing takeoff briefs. So while we wait on these doofuses to they'll probably both go around. Let's look at the takeoff brief real quick. Are they climbing? No, they're just above us. That's what it is. So takeoff brief is going to be a standard left seat takeoff. V1 is, let's pull this up. V1 is 135. Rotate at 143, and V2 is 160. For any alarms, warnings, or failures prior to V1, we'll immediately abort the takeoff, apply full braking and full reverse thrust, and we will exit the runway as soon as it's safe to do so. Contact ATC, or we would if we were using ATC, let them know that we have an issue and sort out the problem, and then determine where to go next from there. Any alarms or failures after V1, we will continue the takeoff and we will address the problem once we are airborne. For an engine out procedure, we will proceed out over to the Buckeye VOR, climb to 12,000 feet, and we will enter a holding pattern over the Buckeye VOR and begin dumping fuel to return back to Phoenix Airport. Any questions? We've been over this. There's no questions unless you put them down in the comments, guys. Alright, I'm just waiting on these doofuses here real quick. I don't like to I could just run out there and they will, they'll go around automatically. I try to avoid doing that. Just because, you know, I'm trying to keep it a little more realistic here. So I'm going to give them just a second here, and then we'll get out on the runway. I'm guessing they're both going to go around, but we'll see what happens here. And sure enough, as expected, they both went around. We've got all our lights on. Let's pull out on the runway here. Track iron coming on, a little jump. There it is. Get her moving here. We don't want to be going too fast, so we'll pull those throttles back. And unlike most aircraft in your simulator, it does not immediately come to a screeching halt, which is nice. I really like that because, excuse me, I gotta adjust here. It'll maintain 4 or 5 knots as we make the turn onto the runway here, which is really nice. So we'll get her lined up on the runway. We'll try not to use up too much in getting lined up. And you would be surprised at how tight this thing will turn. So So we'll just move it. We got to bypass the center there because the the front wheel is behind us. All right, now we'll turn. And I'll bet we're pretty close here. We might still undercut it. It's gonna be pretty darn close there.
08.
We're actually undercut it just a tiny bit. Let's bring her to a stop here. Nice and easy. And we are ready to rock and roll, ladies and gentlemen. Bring some thrust in here. About 50%. Announce takeoff. Let it stabilize while I'm holding the brakes. Release the brakes. Thrust ref. Now if you don't have a button on your joystick, you can click right in here, right here. This will also give you toga right here. Alright, hands on the throttles. Looking for and listening for V1. There's 80 knots.
V1.
Hands off throttles.
Rotate.
Pull back on the stick, nice and gentle.
V2.
You don't want to strike the tail.
Positive rate of climb.
Gear up. Oh yeah, I gotta put it up. Gear coming up. Now our flight director is not showing vertical information for some reason. You see that? Why is that? That's strange. I wonder if that's a failure. Let's cycle the flight director real quick. There it is. Okay, let's bring the trim down a little. We can bring flaps up one. Just taking a little nose down trim. So I don't know if you saw what I did there. You heard me talking about it. There's our D rate or our climb thrust coming in. So I didn't have this little crossbar on my flight director for some reason. And so what I did was I turned the flight director off and back on. It's called cycling the flight director, and now it's on there. So I don't know if it was from cycling it or if it just was waiting to show up until we got above that prescribed altitude, which it could have been that as well. Alright, but if you're not sure, just cycle the flight director really quick. Alright, just a touch of nose down trim there. No land 3. Well, yeah, why is it even saying that? We don't have the autopilot on or nothing. That's kind of weird. Clear it off. There we go. Alright, we're looking good here. Let's bring up the flaps to 5. Alright, there's flaps 5. Continue to accelerate. We'll be starting our turn here shortly. There's our turn. And the nose will try to drop as you come through the turn. Remember that. There we go. Keep that nose up just a little bit. We could go to flaps 1, but I'm waiting. Just want to get myself stabilized here. Get through the turn. Turn just a little sharp there. There we go. Just following that flight director, guys. Or trying to, anyway. Looking pretty good there. Wants us to go a little tighter. Bring it all the way around. You see that nose start to drop. You got to pull that back just a little bit. Don't pull too hard. You can stall an aircraft at any speed. And that's something that the flight dynamics are pretty solid on this thing, to be honest with you. Let's just bring just a little nose up trim here. And I'm just focused on flying the airplane right now. I'm not worried about anything else. We're fine on our flaps. Oh, a little too much there. And you don't want to chase it too hard. Just try and center up your flight director as best you can. Looking pretty good so far. Going through 8,000 feet. Little chop there. Sorry about that. Just a hair more nose up trim. Be looking to take care of our landing lights here shortly. Not a lot to talk about right now, right? Okay, to simplify, I'm going to put autopilot on now. See if it stays on. It did. Fantastic. Track car coming off. If I'm using FS2 crew, autopilot will not stay engaged until after the flaps are all the way up. Alright, we're about to cross 10,000. I'm going to go ahead and turn these landing lights off, and we're going to take care of our after landing checklist. Or after takeoff checklist. So right now we're just waiting for flaps to come up. That's the last thing. Speed's getting ready to come up now as we're getting ready to cross 10,000 feet. You can see our flaps 1 indicators right there, so we're just above it on speed. So we'll go ahead and bring flaps all the way up. That'll give us a green over here once they're all the way up. Oh, actually I took them to 1. I apologize. Now we'll take them all the way up once we pass this one here. There we go. Now flaps can come all the way up, and then we'll get a green on our checklist once the flaps complete their travel. A little choppiness here. Boy, my frame rates are just struggling, aren't they? I don't know what it is, guys. I've been trying everything I can think of settings wise, and I just can't seem to get her squared away. The flaps do take a while to travel up. As you can see, they're still coming. There we go. Flaps are up. So if we look at our after takeoff checklist, landing gear is up, flaps are up, packs are on, exterior lights are off at this point. Once we cross 18,000 feet, we'll take care of the altimeters. And if you took off with the APU on, you would turn it off at this point. We did not. And that means, ladies and gentlemen, that's right, tutorial or not, it is time for some of that obligatory elevator music. Alright folks, we're about 150 miles or so, give or take, from our top of descent, and we've got a little bit of work to do before we can actually start descending and get a move on, right? So first things first, we need to put in our arrival and our approach, and I've already gone in and I've picked those. I haven't put them in here yet, but departure arrival page, there you go, KSFO arrivals. It's going to be the Surfer 4 arrival for us. There it is. And then we're going to be taking the ILS runway 28 right approach. So there we go, that one there. And I believe our transition is at Eddy, so we can put that in there. There we go. And then if you look at your legs page, you look for any route discontinuities, anything like that, which we don't have any. And then when we actually do the briefings, we'll take care of that. We'll take care of making sure that our altitude restriction and all that are put in properly. With that being said, we can go all the way down. I'm just double checking here. 1,800 feet is going to be our glide slope intercept. Now we do have some altitude restrictions on our arrival, which you'll see here shortly. However, we are going to allow the FMS or the FMC to take care of that for us. So we're going to put this all the way down to 1,800, and then we don't need to touch it for descent. I've made that mistake a few times already. And I know that, so for those of you who are sticklers for it, this isn't the proper way to do it. The proper way to do it is to put it to your first cleared altitude, and then when you get cleared to the next one, you change it, and so on and so forth. We're not going to be doing that because, well, we're not using ATC for number one, and number two, I don't want to keep messing with it over and over because I got 100 other things going through my brain. Alright, with all that said, we've got that set up in there. We do need to pick or set up our approach reference as well. So hit initial reference. Here you go, VREF. So we're looking at 157 with flaps 30. We are going to be pretty heavy when we land, so we need to keep that in mind. The aircraft is going to not only be moving quick, but it's a lot of weight to slow down. And then we want to leave that page on there. We've already checked our weather. I verified that the runway is the runway we should be going in on, assuming that it doesn't change at the last possible minute. We can put our runway heading in there if we want. Now, it's my understanding that the proper way to do this is like right now this would be at 29 or 5, just in case something happens with the LNAV, and we'd change it every time we made a turn. We're not doing that. We're just going to go ahead and set it to 284. That's going to be our final approach course. That's too low. 3, 4. There we go. And then we want to set our auto brakes. We're going to use auto brakes 2 for this one, and I think that should be plenty. And what else? That's it, other than actually the descent itself. Now we still do need to take care of our briefings, however, and so I want to do that right now. Let's bring our Sim Toolkit Pro over here, and let's start with our arrival briefing. It's going to be the Surfer 4 RNAV arrival for us today. HOTAS, there's 3 different frequencies for HOTAS. We can use any one of those 3. Airport elevation is 13 feet, and we're going to be coming in out here at Makers. From there it's going to go to Surfer, then Gnarly, then Waves, then Epic, yeah, I know. Then Fullet, I don't know what that is, and then Eddie. Alright, so for you guys who live up in the San Francisco area, is surfing that big out there? Because it seems like it is. But anyway, it's fine. We do that. You see that everywhere in the U.S. I don't know about other countries, but you see them naming waypoints, based on something in the local area. So you can also see that there's hold points available at each one of these, which isn't surprising considering how busy San Francisco can get. So we do have some altitude restrictions at or above flight level 200 at Gnarly. We have to be between 19,000 or flight level 190 and 15,000 at Waves. At Epic it's between 15 and 10, and then at Fullet we still need to be at or above 8,000 feet. And by the time we get to Eddie, we must be at 6,000 feet, 240 knots. And we shouldn't have any problem with either of those. Now let's take a look at the approach. It's going to be the ILS runway 28 right approach for us today. And here again you see you got the same 3 HOTAS frequencies. I don't know why they have 3, probably just in case one is super busy or something. I don't know. Anyway, NorCal approach is on 134.5, San Francisco Tower on 120.5, and ground on 121.8. Our localizer frequency is 111.7. The IGWQ, that's the Morse code identifier. Final approach course is 284 degrees with glide slope intercept at Aximal at 1,800 feet. For ILS we refer to minimums. We'll do that shortly. Airport elevation 13 feet and touchdown zone elevation 13 feet. In the case of a missed approach, we're going to climb to 3,000 feet on the 281 degree radial from the SFO VOR, which is right here, alright, to VIEW intersection, and from there, which is 12 miles out from the VOR, and then we're going to hold there at VIEW, alright, and you can see the hold here. It's a right turn for the inbound hold, so 281 in, 101 out, so on and so forth. We're not doing any circling runway. Transition level is 18,000. We do have some minimum safe altitudes in the area that are relatively high, especially considering the airport elevation. There's mountains over here, so you got 3,500 feet in this sector, 4,500 feet in this sector, and 5,000 feet in this sector. So just keep that in mind as we're heading in. We're going to come in over here at Eddy. We must be at 6,000 feet. Then it's down to Sidby, then to Seppin. Left turn to our final approach course from there, 284 degrees down to Axmal for glide slope intercept. And you can see what that looks like on the profile here. 3,000 at Seppin, 1,800 for glide slope intercept. Happy lights on the left hand side. We've got the alternating sequencing. I forgot what it's called now. Let me pull it up over here. Let's go to that, and then I put it in the notes in this flight here. No comments. It is called a high intensity approach lighting system with sequenced flashing lights. At some point I will remember that. Approach lighting system with sequenced flashing lights. That's what this ALSF stands for, okay? Happy lights on the left hand side. Here's your missed approach stuff right here. And it's going to be Cat 1 ILS for us with runway visual range of 1,800 feet. Decision altitude 213 feet on the barrel. Bleh. Come on, brain function. 213 feet on the barrel, or 200 feet on the radio altimeter. I think we got it all in there. Whew. Having a hard time talking today, aren't I? And that's going to take care of everything for our descent procedures. And we're just going to wait for the aircraft to descend at this point. We got a little ways to go yet. So let me see, progress page. Yeah, we still got 97 miles to go. So we got a little while. I'm going to hop off of here, and I will see you guys when we're getting close to the approach. Alrighty, folks, we're just past Fullett here, almost to Eddy. Now, we're supposed to be at 6,000 feet at Eddy. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. It might have been programmed in the FMC as 6,000 at or above, but let me look. No, it says 6,000, so I'm not really sure why it's taking its sweet time getting there, if you will, but we'll see. We're coming up on 7, or coming down on 7,000 right now. Let's take a look at our approach checklist here. So HOTAS has been obtained. The wind is 310 at 7 knots, altimeter 3005. Our FMC has been set up. Our briefing is complete. Recall has been checked. And again, you do that just by clicking on this guy. No land 3. Yeah, I get it. That's something with the computers. We're not going to use it anyway. Altimeters are set. VREF is 157 knots. Minimums are set at 200 on the radio, 210 on the, or 220 on the barrel. What else? Passenger signs are on. Auto brakes are set to 2, and our landing lights are on. And that takes, this guy's gonna, what is he, climbing right into us here? He's descending. That takes care of our approach checklist. Okay, so we're getting told by the FMC to put some drag in here, so we're going to do that, and we're going to go ahead and throw out flaps 1. And you can see down here our approach checklist is just the altimeters. That's done. And we'll skip on over to our landing checklist, which is going to be speed brake, landing gear, and flaps. We're working on all those right now. Speed brake's helping us slow down. Go ahead and throw a little more out there. And onward we shall go. I hate that it's still saying drag required, even though I've got drag out right now. What do you want me to do? Getting a little choppiness. I don't know what's going on between my scenery and everything. This thing's just, it's a mess right now, guys. It really is. It's a mess. So I apologize for the choppiness. But it is what it is. Let's bring in the next setting of flaps. Let that speed keep coming down. I'm going to go ahead and arm the localizer as soon as we start making the turn, and then I'm going to clear the approach path for ultimate traffic. It looks like there's something, the scenery's just all kinds of busted up. I've got scenery missing. See, like that won't load in. I don't know what is going on, guys. My simulator is not happy. And let's take her to flaps 10. Alright, arm the localizer. And let's go, let's clear the approach path. And hopefully that clears the whole thing. It's already grabbed the localizer, so we can arm the glide slope now. And I hope this does not get super choppy coming in. That's a bridge, isn't it? Okay, well that explains that thing. There's the runway or the airfield in sight. Again, we're landing on 2.8 right. Ooh, that sucker. Look how low our speed went. Sometimes the autopilot seems a little slow to react, doesn't it? Should grab the glide slope here any second. Speed brake. Oh, I'm an idiot. I left the speed brakes out. Don't leave your speed brakes out, guys. There's the glide slope. So let's go gear down. And as the gear comes down, flaps 20. And let's bring our speed all the way down. So we said, what, 156, so 161. And we'll go flaps 25. And flaps 30. Arm the speed brakes that I left out like an idiot. Flaps are at 30. Let's take a look at our landing checklist. Speed brake is armed. The landing gear is down with 3 green. Flaps are set to 30. And the cabin crew has been notified. Let's get our view proper. Track hire coming on a little jump here. See that terrain not loading in over there? What is that all about? I don't understand that. That was all the way across the whole flight. Does anybody know why it's doing that? And it won't load in, period. It just won't load in at all. So I don't know. Everything's, look at my frame rates are in the toilet. This is going to be a tough landing here. Wow. Well, I'm going to give it my best, guys, and hopefully it's not too bad, huh? I don't know what's going on. I have, like, what is with my frame rates? You know what? I'll tell you what I'm going to do that might help a little bit is I'm going to toggle off all the aircraft. I'm just turning them off. Bye. Hopefully that'll help a little. It did, substantially as a matter of fact. Let's take the autopilot off.
1,000.
Alright, we leave the auto throttle on. It's looking good. Boy, that made a huge difference on frame rates, didn't it? Look at that. We're up to 40 now. It was just that that AI traffic. Getting just a hair high there.
Approaching.
There we go. Looking good.
Right.
Just a little high. As we get closer, we're that much higher, right? So we'll just bring her down a little. There we go. That's where we want to be, right about there. Looking good.
400.
I want to be right around 850 feet per minute. Right there.
300.
Oh, maybe not.
Approaching minimums.
Alright, well at least it's nice and smooth, so I'll just have to remember to take AI traffic off. Alright, there we go.
$100. 60. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
Just waiting for it to settle. There it is. Oh, that was butter right there, you guys. Bring in the reverse thrust. Gonna crank it all the way up. That was a good landing. Boy, I'll tell you what, turning off that AI traffic made a big difference, didn't it? It's a shame that it's hurting my frame rate so much. There's 80 knots. We're going to take this next exit is what we're going to take. As we're scrolling on down here, let's get those slats or the spoilers back up. Start bringing the flaps up all the way. Here we go. Slow her down a little bit more. We don't want to be going too fast as we make this turn. Minus 93 feet per minute on that landing, you guys. Now that feels pretty good because I haven't had a good one in a little while. Obviously my AI traffic is just too much for my computer anymore. Start those guys. Now I'm going to take her all the way off here and then we're going to stop on the taxiway for a minute because I want to take care of a couple of things. We want to go through the after landing procedures and all of that because this is a tutorial. We want to take our time with it. So let me just get her around the corner here, straighten her out, and then we'll come to a stop. and we'll take care of our after landing procedures. All right. Now these are things, well, I'll go over here in a second. Let me just get to a stop here. Let's just bring her to a nice, easy, gentle stop. Don't slam the brakes. Track iron coming off. Little jump. There we go. Alright, let's take a look at our after landing procedures here. First of all, our auto brakes need to be off. Now they should disarm. They did once we hit the brakes, but we want to turn them off. Autopilot goes off, which it already is. Transponder mode can go to standby. All the way down. There we go. Exterior lights as required. So there's a couple we do need, a couple we don't need. Strobe's got to come off. Landing lights are all in the off position. That's on, that's off. There you go. Wing lights will stay on. Nav lights and beacon light will stay on both for now. Flaps are up. Speed brake lever is down. So you can see, there we go. Flaps up. Speed brake lever down. Weather radar needs to come off. Turn that off. We can also turn the traffic mode off. We don't need that anymore. Turn the airport mode on so that we have our taxiways. That's always handy, right? Okay, continuous ignition. That is not in this particular model. Not sure if it's in the passenger model. Flight directors can go off. 1 and 2. There we go. Auto throttle arm switch goes off. There we go. APU as required. So it's a good idea to start the APU here. It'll save you some hassle when you pull up. You can go through the shutdown and then worry about connecting ground power afterwards. Equipment cooling select, we'll leave it on normal, and then we don't have an aft cargo heat switch to worry about. So our after landing checklist, landing lights and strobe are off, flaps are up, speed brake is down, weather radar is off. These are things that you can do as you're coming off the runway if you're able to coordinate it well enough. All right, and then the other thing that I wanted to cover here real quick, we're going to taxi in. Okay, let me just show you where we're at. So we landed over here on runway 28 right, all right, and we took this exit right here, Romeo, and we're going to park right back here. But this is important. Approved 747-800 taxi routes, or 747-8. All right, so for Boeing 747-8 only, everything in green is approved for taxi, and then in red is tow in, tow out. Well, we don't have the option to tow in, so we're going to taxi in. But I just wanted to show you guys this real quick, because when you're flying this aircraft at some airports, you can't just taxi anywhere. There's approved routes because of the wingspan. All right, so keep that in mind. You can see there's my landing rate, minus 93 feet per minute. That was nice and silky smooth. So let me get this out of the way. Oh, I do that so often. I don't know what it is about where I'm trying to grab it, but you see how it's highlighting everything? It's so frustrating. Okay, there we go. Okay, so, oh, that was the wrong button. Let's try that again. Track iron coming on, little jump. There it is. And what do you say we... Oh, I had a hiccup and a little bit of a belch there for you. Let's taxi in, and I will see you guys back here shortly. Alrighty, folks, we got her parked here, and that's going to take us into our shutdown procedures. First things first here, we've got our parking brake set right down there. Wing anti-ice is on auto. Nacelle anti-ice needs to go off. Remember, that's these two here. There we go. Electrical power as required. So we're going to jump up top here, and we're going to just go ahead and activate one of the APU generators real quick. Stabilizer trim needs to be set to 6 units. So if we jump over here, and we will select, actually let's select this inboard one here and go flight controls, and then that's at 7.4, so we'll bring it down to 6. I don't know why that is, but there's obviously a reason for it. Rudder and aileron trims are both set neutral. Hydraulic demand pump selectors all go off, and that's these 4 right here, so all 4 of those off. Fuel control switches can go in the cutoff position now. Take care of that real quick, all 4 of those. And then once I do that, I like to go ahead and request GSX. Let's request deboarding. Hop down here. A little jumpy there. That's the checklist we're on there. Go to menu, FS actions, doors, open entry 1. Open the nose cargo, side cargo, and these 3 here. And that'll get GSX working. Fantastic. Fuel pump switches can all go off now. Jump up top here. 5, 6, 7, 8 of them there. Beacon can go off. Beacon actually needs to go to lower. Nav can go off, wing can go off, logo's already off. I forgot to turn taxi off, which I usually do. Seatbelt signs can go off. Remember, we're jumping back here for that. There's the nose door opening, in case you were wondering if you could see it while inside the aircraft. Yes, you can. Seatbelt signs are off. Packs as required. We'll leave those on for the moment. IRS error determined. We don't need to do anything with that. Transponder code needs to go to VFR. Just type it in, 1200. There we go. ICAS status display check. There's all kinds of stuff on there because we got all kinds of stuff going on at once, right? Gear brake temperature check. So if you put this on, we'll have to jump over here so you can see it better. So if you put this on gear, this is your temperatures right here. So brake temp is the one on the inside, and then tire pressure is the one on the outside. And our temperatures are a little high, but they're not too bad, so that's good. IRS mode selectors can all go off now. Double click, double left click, 1 and 2. 1 and 2. There we go. Windshield protection off. That's the window heat there. And then chocks can be put in place, which we may already have, but let's just double check. We do not. So let's set the chocks. Let's request ground power, request the air conditioning unit. And that takes us to our shutdown checklist. So hydraulic pumps are off, parking brake is set, fuel control switches are cut off, fuel pump switches are off, and external power has been connected. And that's going to bring us to the last part of our full flight tutorial, which is the power down. Now we're not going to quite do all of this, but I am going to show you how to do all of it. And the only reason I'm not going to do all of it is because I'm going to let I'm going to let GSX keep doing his thing. But trim air switch needs to go off. That's all the way up here. Brain just went blank. Trim air right here. Here we go. Trim air goes off. Recirc fans we don't have in this one, but you should have them in the passenger model. High flow switch goes off. That's this one here. It's already off. Gasper, again, not in this model, but you might have it in the civilian or the passenger model. Pack control selectors can all go off. 1, 2, and 3. Exterior lights can all go off. We'll leave the lower beacon on because we've got power on the aircraft still. Emergency exit lights can go off. Right click and right click again. Left and right utility power switches can go off. Left and right utility power switches. APU can go off. Let's go ahead and grab one of the external powers. Turn the APU off. Fire detection panel after 2 minutes should be normal, so I guess you got to keep an eye on that for 2 minutes. Interior lights off, and then it would be standby power switch off. This one here. Actually, I think you still need these on. So you would turn standby power off, and then you would turn the battery switch off, and that would take you all the way back to cold and dark. And that means, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap it up for this one. And I tell you what, the flight was fun putting this tutorial together. It was quite a bit more than I think I've done in some of my previous full flight tutorials, but I hope that I covered everything for you guys and answered the majority of your questions. Of course, feel free to ask any questions down in the comments. If you see something that I missed or maybe I made a mistake, it does happen sometimes, please don't hesitate to put that down in the comments either. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope it's very helpful for you. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. If you click on the little bell, you'll get notifications anytime that I upload a video or put a post out there. Also, give the video a thumbs up. It helps me to know that you like the video. That's really what it comes down to. If you want to give the video a thumbs down, go for it, but it does help if you're going to give it a thumbs down that you give me some sort of critique down in the comments so I know what it is you dislike about the video. It's alright if you give it a thumbs down. That helps me to make better videos. That's really what it comes down to. But that's going to wrap it up for this one, ladies and gentlemen. That was a solid full flight tutorial, and I really enjoyed it. I hope you did too. And that means, as always, until next time, keep the blue side up, unless otherwise instructed by ATC. God bless you all, and have a wonderful day.